Morning, morning, morning. Morning, Roxanne. Thank you for my brooms. Can I report PNM achievements? Will do, Roxanne. We have a list. I just have a couple more things I need to add to it, and then I will accede to your request to report PNM achievements for the past 9 years. Christopher Coffey, morning, sir. Oria Ghani, morning. Morning, Rookman. Assign Atu, morning to you. Leon Graves, morning, sir. Aline Lewis. Ray, morning. Annette Beard, J Dimple 66, morning to you guys. Dwayne Peters, morning, sir. Alberta Sampath, morning. Sybil Mayas, morning to you, sir. Pamela O'Connor, Kenneth Gabriel, Jennifer Ashby Okuli, morning. Bina Felix, Rude Trude, morning. Who do we have on Facebook? Morning, Diane. Diane Charles, John Edwards, morning to you. Carol Myers, morning, Carol. The sun didn't come up by me as yet, Carol. All right, here's sun. Yeah. Take a peep there. Yeah. It's on its way. Christopher Siffy, Sarah Richards, Gemma White, Isaac, morning to all of you. Joyce Neves, Margaret Matheson, Maynard Lazari, morning. Jennifer Dorset, morning to you. Judy Bowen, morning, Judy. Alison Boyce, happy Tuesday to you. Phyllis Antoine, Ashton Clark, morning, folks. Linda Supreme, joining us from Queens, New York. Linda, I don't know how y'all could live in that temperature. New York is nice to visit, but I don't think I could live there, not with that cool. Natalie F, morning. Janet and Ansel St. Hilaire, morning to you folks. They're saying they're looking out for me on my walkabout. Okay. So I'm guessing you guys are from the constituency. Yeah, so I'll be walking this evening. Let's see. Just now, give me 1 second here. Let me just check this thing here. Where is it? Just give me 1 sec here, folks. Let me just get this thing here. Right. I know they sent me my work schedule. So let me see if I find it here. Right, so where are we today? Walking Malabar Phase 1, Mahogany Drive, Immortal Avenue, Arjun Avenue. Yeah. So, yes. But I look forward to meeting you guys, Janet and Ansel. Priscilla Holder, morning to you. Shah, morning. Angela Cathy, Hyacinth Richardson, Udani, Anthony Joseph, morning to you. Anthony's joining us from Rhode Island. Okay, welcome, Anthony. Nice. Alberta Mikkel, Corey McEwen, Hyacinth Richardson, Angela Barrington, Gillan Jackson, morning, guys. Corey is saying get Sharon involved with the live on days you're not on. She can help. I'll have a discussion with her on that and see if she's willing to jump on for a bit now and again. I know Sharon is a woman who loves her sleep. But yeah, even though she used to get up early to go down to the radio station, because when I was there and we used to do it online via Zoom, she used to enjoy that. Truth Speaker 27, morning, Janet. And Ansel saying, when would you be working Larry Source South? I will find out from my what is it? My field officer today, and I'll let you guys know. Annette Hunt, Jackie Graham, KCSS, morning to you. Chris Craigwell, Alicia Almande Roche, Pammy Gray, Jenny Bengoshe, morning, guys. Elizabeth Ramtahal, morning to you. Franklin Jack Group, morning, sir. You see here, Cheryl Seeley, Ashlyn Robertson, Arthur James, morning to all of you guys. So let me jump in one time because it's already 6:45 and I have to jump off at 9 o'clock. Trini Bree, Maryland in the house. Very nice. Welcome, Trini Bree. Jerome Marshall is saying, now logging on. Happy year in the race. This elections will be a strong person to face off with the UNC in the parliament. Thank you so much. I look forward to that. So yesterday, the Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister, the Prime Minister designate, and others would have commissioned or had a soft opening. Well, it's not opened yet, but would have commissioned the new Port of Spain Central Block, which I heard from a doctor who is my colleague on the board of the St. Mary's College Past Students Union, as we were having a discussion last night after our board meeting. And he was telling me that that Central Block had been condemned since 2009. Yeah. But notwithstanding the fact that it was condemned in 2009 because of structural issues, the UNC that tells you they so care about healthcare came in 2010, just a few months later. 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days, boasting about having the highest energy revenues in the country's history. And they did absolutely nothing with respect to that Central Block that had been condemned. As you all know, that Central Block housed mainly the wards. That was mainly the ward section of the hospital, right? And that is where you had patients and family members coming to visit those patients who, for the entirety of the People's Partnership's tenure, were at risk. But yet still, given that that building had been condemned in 2009, rather than do what this administration has done, in addition to building 4 other hospitals across the country, Tobago included, they saw it fit to demolish that condemned Central Block and to construct what was commissioned yesterday, right? So it shows that it is possible to build hospitals, other hospitals, while you could have constructed a Central Block. This government showed that it could be done. But this Kamla Prasad Bisesa, whatever it is, this entity, because they seem to be falling apart at the seams every day, is somebody else resigning from the party, didn't see it necessary to do what this administration did, right? And they continue to use the Central Block, putting the lives of patients, of healthcare workers, and families of patients at risk. Yeah, all who were using that structure. And then, of course, we saw what would have happened in 2018 and so on. And so this government was prompted to do what was necessary and to have that section demolished. And they would have put things in place to move the patients to other areas on the compound that were converted into wards, in fact. And these wards were, I think, quite decent. In fact, air conditioned, well, they were clean and well maintained, because my sister, just a couple of weeks before her passing, she would have been there, spent almost 3 months there in 2022. So I would have visited her on occasion and I would have seen where she was. Sometimes she used to complain that the AC too cold, right? But seeing what was there, and this administration took that decision. What did Prasad Bisesa and her administration do? They sought to build a hospital, as I say, behind God back, under his heel in Couva, a hospital that was originally intended to be built in Endeavour. And as Jacques Warner said, he woke up one morning to hear that it moved to Couva, and he was still in cabinet, and he don't know how that happened. So clearly decisions weren't being made as Verna St. Rose Graves would have told us. There were no cabinet minutes being taken, so you don't know who said what, who was present, who was absent, all of these different things. Verna St. Rose said that, and it was not challenged by anybody who was in that cabinet. So that when Jack Warner could tell us that he knows that cabinet had taken a decision to construct that hospital in the Endeavour area, and then you wake up one morning to hear that it's going to be built in Couva, and you don't know when that decision was taken, who took that decision, but that decision was made, right? For, I think it's a 230-bed hospital that the Yellow Party is so proud of. Yeah, UNC, I'm proud. and keep clamoring for this one hospital that their great and their leader, their Maharani, their queen, built, borrowing money from the Chinese, right? And as we made the point before, if you have an emergency and you don't have a vehicle and you need it, you're living in that area, that catchment area, and you need to get to that hospital, crap will smoke your pipe, because you have to find, you'd have to go to Cuba to take transportation to get to Presal or wherever it is, and then, yeah, because you have to go all the way around the roundabout in the back, as if you're heading to Grand Cuba to come through. So it's a Sataba Canal. Okay, but that is the great hospital that they're so happy about and lifting up. 230 beds. They call it the Cuba Children's Hospital, but in fact it was 150 beds for adults and 80 beds for children. So clearly that was a misnomer. But they realize anytime you attach the word children to anything, it seems to stir up certain feelings, certain sentiments in people. Yes, they care about the children. She built a whole hospital for children, but 3/4 of the fully done don't even know that there were more beds in that hospital for adults than for children. So why call it a children's hospital? When you have a whole wing, right? Children's wing and the Wendy Fitzwilliam wing in Mount Hope, which is the children's wing, which was to some extent underutilized. But you're going quite to build a hospital. To Mamagai, people say you're building the Cuba Children's Hospital, right? 230 beds, as opposed to the central block, not a whole hospital, the central block, 540 beds. Look at the difference. Over 300 beds more than double what the great Cuba Hospital, Cuba Children's Hospital, could accommodate. And that was their big signature infrastructure project. This Cuba Children's Hospital that this wicked and evil Rowley government don't want to open, according to them. Yes, Kamala built that. And Rowley don't want to open it. Open the hospital, I think, and she built one. She gave you in 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days. As I told you a couple of days ago, as opposed to the PNM. Right? So under two UNC, you see, I had two UNC prime ministers, 95 to 2001, and then 2010 to 2015. Pandey and Kamla, 11 and a half years, and you got one hospital. One brand new hospital. One. 11 and a half years and two prime ministers. But one prime minister in 9.5 years gave you 5. But these same people who supporting the fully duns want to tell you, what the PNM do? And the Rowley and they may do nothing in 9.5 years. They have nothing to show. So apparently 5 hospitals is nothing to show. 5 versus 1. But as I always say, under that party, less is more. Because for them, 1 more than 5. Despite the fact there's only 230 beds. And I'm reading the comments yesterday under the posts from the various media houses covering that event yesterday. And there are just some people in this country, no matter what you do, no matter what this government does, they will never be satisfied. The fully done jump on board. And if you hear them, the toilet bowls too low. How the sick and how the elderly and the infirm supposed to sit down on them toilet bowls? Because there were two, I think there were 2 floors, well, that were opened yesterday. Well, not open, but commissioned yesterday. And so they had a model floor showing you, I think, what Ward 5 would be, what it would look like. So people can have an understanding what they can expect when they go there. And it looks very nice for those of you who would have seen the footage. But apparently, these things upset some people because, wow, boy, we only complaining the health sector so terrible. And the leader last night at the Monday night forum meeting talking about that the healthcare in healthcare sector in this country is the worst, all-time worst. But here it is. You have 5 more hospitals than you did between 2010 to 2015. And among those 5 hospitals, you have over approximately 1,100 more beds than what existed between 2010 to 2015. Right? Approximately 1,100 more beds among those 5 new hospitals that this administration built. The same fully done who always calling more beds. You need more bed in the hospital. Whenever in the hospital, you can't get a bed, and you're waiting on the corridor for how much hours before you could get a bed. I found a clip that I was supposed to play from a hospital in the US where people were lying on stretchers all in the corridor waiting to be warded. Yeah, because of shortage of beds. Same thing exists in Canada. Same thing exists in the UK. But they want to make you feel as only in Trinidad is have that problem. Under them, between 2010 to 2015, the problem existed too. It was acute. And the then Minister of Health, Fuad Khan, in attempting to explain what was causing that, was saying that you have a lot of people in the hospital who are occupying beds who shouldn't be there. Persons, elderly persons who have been discharged, but because nobody came to pick them up, they are still there. Some of them days, weeks after they would have been discharged, they're still there because nobody come for them. So what you're gonna do? Put them out on the street and leave them there? They're not gonna leave the hospital. So they're occupying beds that they shouldn't. He told us mentioned about, and we heard what some people do, those who take care of their elderly parents, that for around carnival time, they come and they drop off their parents in the hospital, and then the parents are warded, and so they are there until after carnival, because when you want to go and fit and play your mass and so on, you don't have money to pay a caretaker to look after your elderly parents. So the best thing to do, drop them off in the hospital, and then afterwards you'll pick them up maybe a couple of days after. We heard stories about parents who give their children stuff to drink, or so, or even laxatives and so on, give them in a quantity that would cause them to either have extreme diarrhea, or to cause them to start to vomit and all kind of thing, to the extreme to take them to the hospital to be warded around carnival time, so that the hospital will take care of them, because they don't have anybody to look after the children and they ain't paying anybody. We've heard these things. Doctors telling us, nurses telling us about these things that people do to have a good time. All of that contributes to the bed shortage, because if you build a hospital to accommodate 230 beds, as the Cuba Hospital, then you could only accommodate 230 patients at a time, because you only have 230 beds. The hospital was built to accommodate that. You can't put 600 beds in a hospital and built to accommodate 230. Where is the space? Right? That is a hazard. If it is you're having a fit and your venue could only hold 500 people, you can't put 1,000 people, because the fire service is going to come and shut down the vet. That is a threat. It is a hazard. Right? You're posing risk to life and limb. So in the same way, if you build a hospital to accommodate a certain amount, you can't add. But when I keep hearing the fully done talking about, they're spending money on this and money on that, and that money could have been used to buy more hospital beds. Yeah, well, you need hospitals to be able to accommodate more beds. Plain common sense. But for some people, common sense, and so common. Right? So I keep asking, where to put the beds? In the car park? In the basement? In the mortuary? I'm sure they could put more beds in the mortuary. Yeah, but of course, who sleeps in the mortuary? Okay? Right. So they vex. All kind of thing they're talking about with respect to the central block. They couldn't find, I am just sitting there and wow. These people who always complaining about the state of the health sector. Yeah, well, we gonna see how long it gonna last. They don't maintain nothing in this country. It's looking nice now, but then they open it in about 6 months' time, you will see the condition. And then them nurses and doctors and them must be a set a hug. So I hope they get staff, new staff that more pleasant. Everything, only complaint after complaint after complaint. They can't just say, all right, okay, nice building, nice new hospital, because it's not just going to be housing wards. There are a number of services that will be offered there. So let me just get this here from the Prime Minister's website. Well, I see Jenny post something, not my 100, so I guess that speaks to the outcome of the PSA election. All right, we're gonna hear about that. That is another bacchanal by itself. I saw up to 9:30 last night, Nixon calendar was making the point that they still hadn't started the count. And then you saw people going in and out and so on. And there were questionable things taking place last night at the control center where the ballots were to be counted. Let me see, let me get this here. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley attended the official commemoration ceremony for the practical completion of the construction of the Port of Spain General Hospital Central Block today. The 540-bed facility located south of the hospital replaces the old Central Block built in 1962. The aged infrastructure of the old block, combined with the damage it sustained during the 6.1 magnitude earthquake in 2018, made it necessary for the government to replace the building. Delivering the feature address, Dr. Rowley reaffirmed the government's commitment to strengthening the country's health sector. He highlighted the progress achieved over the past 7 years, including the delivery of the Arima General Hospital, the new Point 14 Hospital, the Roxborough Hospital, the Diego Martin Health Center, and the Sangre Grande Hospital campus, as well as the completion of the Cuba Hospital and multi-training facility. And I add that person, there are in fact patients at the Cuba Hospital, and I would know because I was there recently having to get documents related to my sister's death, and I did in fact see patients being wheeled in wheelchairs. And in fact, when I got there, the first question I was asked by security was, am I here to visit a patient? So you can ask me if I come to visit a patient if there are no patients there. Okay, so if apparently persons are being sent there. So part of the complaints I was hearing yesterday or reading yesterday from the fully dons talking about, well, show we inside the Cuba Hospital now. They take all the bed from the Cuba Hospital and they bring it in town. Yeah, you know that. Dr. Rowley said the state-of-the-art central block will contain some of the leading aspects of healthcare delivery in the Caribbean, if not the world. Minister of Energy and Energy Industries and Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Member of Parliament for Port of Spain, North St. Anne's West, the Honorable Stuart Young, commended Prime Minister Rowley for his leadership in prioritizing healthcare in Trinidad and Tobago. Minister Young also urged the management of the new facility to uphold high maintenance standards. So you see, they're done thinking about that already, high maintenance standards. All right, that has been an issue for us. But you want to blame the government for when it comes to the issue of maintenance. That is why you have RHAs who have direct responsibility for ensuring that the plant, that is the hospital infrastructure, is well maintained and it is upkept. Right? You have staff for that, people who get a salary every month to make sure that these things are done. But if they don't take their job seriously because you could lie and relax and lime and do what you want, and then at the end of the month you're collecting your salary because the supervisor is not walking around. And again, in having discussions with my colleague last night, who is a doctor at Port of Spain General Hospital, he's telling me these things. Right? What are the shortcomings that results in or impacts the quality of care that is offered to patients coming to the hospital? And it's not the government. He says when you have senior doctors not talking to junior staff, the junior doctors and so on, and this one not doing their job and that one not doing their job. He says as a medical practitioner, and he's going into specialization, but he sees the shortcomings every day. And as he said, the government getting blamed, the minister getting blamed. Why? Because at the end of the day, he is the head of the health sector. But there are things taking place within these institutions itself which impacts quality of care. And those who are tasked with the responsibility for fixing these things not doing it. So as he said, I'm not on no board and I have no MBA and so on. So I'm just a pleb. I do what I can and I make sure that in executing the functions of the job that I have for which I get paid, I do the best and try to offer the best care I can to my patients. But he sees other persons who have a job and who have a responsibility to do similar and not doing it. But we won't blame the minister for that. So you have a shortage of beds. We have things in place to be able to treat with that. Blame the minister. Don't blame whoever is the head of department. Don't blame whoever is the medical chief of staff for that institution. Don't blame the RHA, the board of the RHA that is compensated on a monthly basis, the managers and so on. And don't blame them. Blame Terrence. It's Terrence's fault. You can't get medication in the dispensary. Blame Terrence. And that's Terrence's fault because Terrence is responsible for inventory. Every day he's supposed to go to every hospital to find out, okay, what drugs you all have and what you don't have. Yeah, Terrence responsible for that. Dr. Rowley responsible. Cabinet responsible for that. So bypass everybody who collecting a salary every month, whose direct responsibility it is for that. Bypass them and go to the minister and blame them. Right. The new central block Port of Spain General Hospital will offer the following: radiology, diagnostic, laboratory, surgical and pharmacy services, medical and surgical wards, adult and pediatric, catheterization laboratory and ICU services, psychiatric services. Minister of Health, the Honorable Terence Dayal Singh, and representatives of the NWRHA were also present at today's ceremony. Right. So those are some of the services that would be offered. So it's not just wards that would be there. Right. And again, I urge those of you who live in south of Trinidad and who probably come to Port of Spain once in a blue moon, probably you make a family trip once every 5 years. Come up and see it now. Don't just rely on the pictures that you see. Take a drive up to the north. Come and see for yourself. And while you're at it, while you come to see the central block, there are other things for you to see too. Right next to central block is the new Ministry of Health headquarters that was constructed and completed a few months ago, um, and for which, as a result, the government no longer has to pay rent to the 1% for that building that they were occupying on Park Street, which I think they're doing the landlords are now doing some work to upgrade the building, because I saw men tooting big bag of cement and all kind of thing going inside it recently. So I guess they're upgrading in the hope of being able to find a new tenant to occupy those floors that were previously occupied by the Ministry of Health headquarters staff. Right? Yeah. So just saying, that wasn't done under the People's Partnership. Right? No new Ministry of Health headquarters. So let me get this here. Let me get this here. This thing keep doing that. Where is it? Where is it? So trying to find some of the comments from anyway. Yeah, it should be here because I remember I had to respond to one of these persons. Right, let me get it here. Let's know. Somebody asks, I wonder if you would need to have connections to be warded on this floor. And they're referring to the model floor that was shown. So if you haven't seen the footage, you should. Let's know. Someone says, well, while you want to, and responded to that, while you want to find out if you have the connections, I'd rather stay out and not find out. But if you do find out, please share. And it makes sense because I made the point. Rather than calling for more beds and more hospital beds, and hospital beds are to accommodate sick people. What we should be advocating for is the promotion of healthy lifestyles, and the government should engage in addition to constructing hospitals. Because some people get sick, they have no control, they don't know what's going on with their bodies, they have no control over it, and they will get sick. But we can make that effort. Some of us could avoid being sick, right? If it is that we were to be educated on how to lead healthier lifestyles. There are those who will claim, well, yeah, leading a healthy lifestyle is expensive, because eating healthy is expensive. Also, they will tell you to have gym membership is expensive, this expensive, that expensive. Yeah, well, guess what? Plain mass expense is expensive too, right? And poor health is also very expensive, because when it is that you have to pay for medication constantly and these things, yeah, so choose the expensive now. Choose the expensive. You want to stay out of the hospital, because trust me, seeing all that my sister went through in the hospital and my brother a few years before, yeah, it's not nice, right? It's not nice. So instead of only calling for more hospital beds, let's call for some more of that, the exercise equipment that they have in parks and play spaces and recreational spaces around the country. Let's call for more of those now. How about? Yeah, let's call for the private sector to put their money where their mouth is, because a sick employee costs you money, right? If you don't want to give the employee higher pay and so on, put a gym in your building, right? Save them some, because there are corporate entities that have gym facilities in their buildings, or perhaps promote health and wellness around your workspace. Hire pay somebody if it is once a week to have a little aerobics burnout or something for your staff now. These little things to keep them healthy. Because when they're healthy and active and they come to work, you don't have to worry about people applying for sick leave and all of that and extended sick leave. These things, they go on. Just now, let me see if I get some more. Free Airbnb loading. Hope they hire enough staff. Toilets need to be higher. Many elderly can't get down or up comfortably due to joint problems. Now, you don't even know if this particular word is for, because it speaks here pediatric and so on, so children as well. You don't even know if maybe this is the word for them, but you just see one word and that is the complaint. No problem. So somebody responded to that individual telling them it's supposed to be that low in case someone falls off because they're not feeling well, that they will not injure themselves. The elderly can wear Pampers if they can't use the toilet. Simple things. You know, but everybody, when you're looking for, you just need to complain about something. Somebody else responded, they said, you must find a fault. They will have commodes, and they put commodes in capitals. Um, Another one says, celebrating that you finally did something good after 9.5 years is wild. Yes, but of course, the PNM will make it look like they saved the world. For the last 9.5 years, the healthcare system was run into the ground with no upgrades and no real change. But they happy showing because general election coming up. When the wards and every single department operating short staff with broken and faulty equipment, elevators still malfunctioning and sticking, some have been down for years. What we really celebrating? Wake up now, people. So he is saying for the last 9 years, the healthcare system was run into the ground with no upgrades. Apparently, this clown didn't know that that other hospitals were built and are operational, right? But anyway, goes again. Another one says, what I would like to see is our politicians start using our healthcare and stop going away. But just the other day, it was reported that the Minister of Health, Terence Deyalsingh, went to the public health sector, right? He had a cough, lingering cough, and he was concerned, and he went to I think, was it Mount Hope Hospital? I think it was. But these people has conveniently missed these stories, you know. Conveniently missed, as if every single, the Minister of Finance, his pockets deep. Where did his mother die? In Mount Hope. Prior to that, she was in the Arima General Hospital after having suffered a stroke. He didn't put her in St. Clair Medical. He could have put her in West Shore Medical. No, he had confidence in the public health sector, and she was in Arima Hospital, and then eventually she was transferred she ended up in Mount Hope after, where she subsequently passed away. But these things, they don't read these stories, right? They miss these things. When Prasad Bisesa has to, when she needs healthcare, where does she go? Always talking nonsense. In fact, when she was prime minister and the 2 cans of peas fell on her foot, right? The 2 cans of peas fell on her foot. Where she went? St. Clair Medical. When her husband needed to have open heart surgery while she was prime minister, where did he go? St. Clair Medical. And she was prime minister. Why she didn't send him to the public health sector? Huh? Why he didn't go in a public hospital? Why didn't she go to a public hospital when the cans of peas fell on her feet? But they forget that. They're always forgetting that. But if you hear her last night, anyway. Another one goes on to say, let me get it here. Well, it looking good, but as always, all governments build, but never cater for maintenance. Well, maybe you should read the story where Mr. Young spoke about that and what he intends to do. Let me get this here. This hospital seems to be too good for our citizens. Like people wanted a hospital befitting a third world banana republic, not a first-class, first world institution. Another one says, so it's like a housing development where you finish off 3 houses as a model, and that's what is on display here. So why not wait until the block is done? Oh, I forgot silly season approaching. Really? All right. Another one says, this is exactly what I am saying. You open it, but not for use. Nonsense. And these idiots are supporting this. And his name is Bola Singh. But remind Bola in case his memory short. We know who's the idiots he's talking about. That's not, let me get it here. And your memory short. Couva Children's Hospital commissioned but closed September 3rd, 2015, 4 days before the general election, right? The Children's Hospital in Couva, which was commissioned last month, remains closed to the public. Health Minister Dr. Fuad Khan said the health facility was still being outfitted with machinery, and a team has been appointed to source staff to deploy at the institution. Following the commissioning ceremony at the Children's Hospital on August 14th, several persons have attempted to visit the institution seeking medical attention. A Claxton Bay police officer said her 4-year-old daughter developed a high fever last Friday night. At around 10 p.m., I took my daughter to the Children's Hospital in Couva because she was not feeling well. But as I was about to drive through the lay-by to get to the facility, I saw the road was blocked with barrels. I had to turn around and go to the Couva District Hospital where my child had to wait for 5 hours. she said. Right? This is 4 days before the general election. So their term had come to almost an end. Fuad Khan is the Minister of Health and Prasad Visesa is the Prime Minister. But here it is that we have this individual telling us that her daughter, she took her daughter 10 o'clock in the night, 10 o'clock in the night. You're not supposed to have that much people, but anyway, to the Kuva District Hospital and had to wait 5 hours. 5. But the fully dunce who will come here and talk and comment on YouTube seem to forget these things. 5 hours from 10 o'clock in the night. The officer said she was convinced that the lavish ceremony where Prime Minister Kamala Prasad Visesa cut the ribbon to commission the Children's Hospital meant the institution was open to the public. When I went to the Kuva Hospital, people were complaining that they too took their children to the new hospital and it was not open, she said. Systems not yet in place. However, Khan noted that the commissioning ceremony did not signal the opening of the Children's Hospital. He said it meant that a commissioning team was now set up to furnish the hospital with machinery and staff. And he said medical personnel from the San Fernando General Hospital were being deployed to the Cuba Children's Hospital. It is not open to the public. It can't open until they have systems in place. We are bringing people from across San Fernando Hospital and deploying them in the Cuba Hospital. They are still working out the commissioning part of it, he said. No staff relocated. Concerns were also raised as to whether it was feasible to move workers from San Fernando General Hospital since the institution was already understaffed. The hospital's medical director, Dr. Anand Chattergoon, said no medical personnel had been relocated from the San Fernando Hospital. So clearly somebody lying. Is it Dr. Chattergoon lying or the minister lying? Because the minister say, right? The hospital is not yet ready to be opened. We are hoping to get more staff before anyone can be moved to the Children's Hospital, he said. Speaking at the commissioning ceremony last month, Prasad Visesa said Children's Hospital will employ 2,500 persons. Construction of the Children's Hospital began in 2012 by the Shanghai Construction Group, and it was estimated at 1 billion, which has ended up being 1.5 billion or so, right? So from 2012 to 2015, that's 3 years. Central Block didn't take that long. 3 years, and it still wasn't open, right? From 2012, as it says here, construction began in 2012, 230 beds. Took more than 3 years. And when this administration came in, now bear in mind, right? September the 4th, the 3rd, 4 days before the general election. And the minister is telling us, well, the hospital still open and we had this to do and that to do. But when this administration came in and they told you, well, the hospital wasn't complete. The fully done, they lie. Kamala opened the hospital. You see, she opened the hospital and whatnot. They're lying and they're saying that the hospital wasn't open, but they're just doing that for spite. But you just heard it for yourself. The minister said the hospital was not open to the public. The commissioner wasn't opened. Right? It took this administration when they came in with less money to have to find the money now to complete the hospital because all the equipment, as Khan said, they had to procure the equipment and all these set of things. But they want to show you that big walkthrough and Kamala show you this equipment and that equipment, but Khan telling you 4 days before the general election, they still have to procure certain equipment and all kind of thing for the thing and staff and all of that. Papi show and mama guy. But apparently Mr. Bola seems to forget these things, right? No problem. No problem at all. Okay. But again, I remind, Central Block didn't take 3 years. Okay? And it has more than double the amount of beds, 540 beds. Took less time to build than the Cuba Children's Hospital. But I digress. So I just wanted to touch on that first of all, right? So we have a new facility in Port of Spain, and soon enough, it would be in operation. Again, just like the other hospitals that were built, the hospitals were built, but of course you have to get the staff, competent staff, you have to train them to use the equipment and all of these different things. So when some people are complaining, but I can't get this service at this hospital or that hospital, things are in place. It takes a period of time for these things to happen, right? Because the quantum of staff that you would need to facilitate all of these services, we don't have it. So when I keep hearing people saying, I don't work, I have no jobs, and I have no jobs, and I have no jobs for the people, stop directing your children in certain directions with respect to their career choices. Look at where there is need. Again, look at where there is need, where the jobs are, and try and see if you can encourage them along those paths. Because in the health sector, you would have opportunities, you have jobs, but if people not focused, and that is why when we had Dr. Alexandrov here, who was the forensic pathologist, and we've always had to bring in foreigners. So we had Dr. Alexandrov, we had Dr. What was his name, boy? This East Indian pathologist. His name started with a C, Dr. Can't remember his name. Forgive me. Like CH something. Can't remember. Chandulal. Right. We always have to be importing forensic pathologists because for some reason Trini's not studying that. And so that is why when Brigadier Edmund Dillon was Minister of National Security, and he had to speak to that because the Forensic Science Center falls under national security, that the government had to offer scholarships to nationals of Trinidad and Tobago to go and study forensic pathology so that we can have nationals doing the job rather than having to be. So when, in the case of Dr. Alexandrov, when he was doing more autopsies than he was authorized to do for the year based on medical strictures and so on, as a pathologist, he could, to avoid burnout, he could only do so many to make sure that the results are accurate. And he was complaining he was doing more than he was supposed to because he was the only forensic pathologist in the country. Right? He has since left. And so these are the things that people need to look at. So when we talk about we want to be a first world country and this and that, there are many fields for which there is a shortage of staff because not enough people gravitating towards these fields. Not enough people know about it. And so as parents, have that discussion with your children now. What do you think about this? You ever thought about this as a career? So do your research and find out what this entails. And again, if you can't find people who are qualified to do the job, what do you want the government to do? What do you want them to do? When they had to be bringing in nurses and doctors from Cuba and elsewhere. Why? We come there, we have doctors graduating every year and they can't find work and so on. But it's not only doctors you need. You need technicians and all of these people. But we're going to touch on that just now, right? Because I'm looking at the time. So I want to play something here, not from that ballhead club. Right? No craving indulgence moment this morning. But I did listen to him last night. I was on the point of this new facility. So they had a Monday night forum last night, and he was one of the speakers. And I listened for the 3 or 4 minutes that I listened because I really couldn't tolerate him for too much longer than that. You could tell that he had a little sours before he mounted the platform, right? You could tell, when he high, his tongue heavy. So he comes last night to talk, and if you hear, he thought he had an aha moment. He said, they open Central Block today. What they do that for? Only 15% complete. Where he get that from, I don't know. But they open 2 wards. And would you believe they spent $773,000 to open 2 floors in the hospital? He ain't get the reaction he was looking for. All you understand why I just tell all you there? They spent $773,000 to open 2 floors. And the bellman in the back gave him a cling, ling, ling, ling. So all right, he get a little something. But he wasn't expecting the oohs and ahs that he was expecting and so on. Rowley must go, he ain't get that. If you see the expression on the face, looking like a... Anyway, let me keep it friendly. Poor soul. And I just there. You thought you had an aha moment. You thought the crowd would have burst out in uproar, and it didn't happen. So him and how he find, okay, like I ain't getting through to them with that one. Let me get them an example. And he says, imagine you have a neurosurgeon doing a surgery, and after he starts to do the surgery, so he just does the cut and he stopped. 15% done. So he's supposed to stop. Imagine if I on my way here to the venue here tonight, and I decide to stop by Mount Hope. 15% of the way. I should have just stopped. So he's trying to say, and I mean, it was so dotish, and he kept going on giving these examples and not getting the response that he wanted. People just weren't taking him seriously, right? You see the building is complete. You know that there is a process. Yeah, but they just wanted to unveil plaque. So Rowley name could be on it because they want Kamala name to be on it, so that is why. So then why Kamala commissioned the Cuba hospital and it wasn't complete. Simple thing. Simple thing. But try to make an issue out of that, and the audience just wasn't feeling him. Now, I didn't listen entirely to the misleader of the opposition, right? I'll probably try to do that over the next couple of days, as difficult as it may be. But I wanted to play a piece of hypocrisy here. One of many coming out of that whatever that is. Damn AC, boy. Look at this here. Right, that's where I get it from. I want to play Philip Alexander here, right? It's not too long, so bear with me. Listen to hypocrisy.
So Samga Media, that keep giving Rai Ragbir and Dinesh Rambali and Rashtan Pare and the other dissidents play, doesn't remind you that they ended up as dissidents because they were fighting to get an internal elections in the UNC that they said the UNC wasn't going to have. But the UNC had their internal elections on time, as was their constitution. The same Samga Media that given Dinesh Rambali and Rai Ragbir and Rashtan Pare and the rest of the dissidents play still Marshall Walker and them, not talking about the fact that the PNM did not have their internal elections. In fact, Keith Rowley staged a coup in the PNM. He staged a coup inside the PNM, the opposite of democracy. He seized control of the leadership machinery of the PNM, by which the power of the party is transferred from person to person. He seized control of it, bullied the parliamentary caucus, silenced the party machinery, and installed Stuart Young as a designated prime minister in violation of the Constitution of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And Samga Media is saying nothing. How you like them apples?
Talking about democracy in party and not holding internal elections, right? No problem. No problem whatsoever. Let me get it here. 1 year ago, the 5th of March 2024, that's 1 year ago. Rumblings in PEP as Alexander returns as leader. Former deputy political leader of the PEP, Lima McLeod Wilkinson, is questioning how Philip Edward Alexander returned as PEP leader more than 3 months after he resigned. In an interview with Guardian Media yesterday, Wilkinson said there was no transparency in Alexander's resumption of his portfolio. She further criticized him for failing to host internal elections. It is very confusing because as it is right now, an internal election needs to be transparent. You needed to have like a regular voting situation. You call out all of your paid up members and all of your people who are supporters of the PEP who wish to be members. You give them the time to do it. You can't have an internal election today for today. Wilkinson recalled that she, alongside 2 other deputy political leaders, Marissa Prasad and Akil Camps, became the head of the PEP 2 days after Alexander resigned. She said both Prasad and Camps elected her as interim leader, but the trio's tenure lasted 1 month after she alleged that they were blocked from effecting changes within the party. She alleged that they were not assisted by the chair or research officer to create a constitution or bylaws, and they could not get information on the party's finances. But he wanted to talk about transparency. All right. That is why she said they shelved the political action within the PEP and stepped down from the executive in December. However, Alexander responded to the comments about the party's failure to host internal elections as red herrings. He also said his resignation was nullified after he received relief from the legal battles that initially prompted him to step down. I had no intention of coming back into politics. I had stopped because I wanted to focus on dealing with the onslaught of legal matters. But then the Court of Appeal made a judgment that nullified a significant judgment against me and opened the door for all of the other matters now to just collapse on one another. So that created an environment where the Progressive Empowerment Party could either stay out of the politics Or I could pick back up because the deputy political leaders didn't want it, and the executive said we could just nullify your resignation. Who is the executive? Your 3 deputy political leaders stepped down from the executive. So who is the executive? The chairman and the what's the other position they mentioned there? The research officer, 2 people. That's the executive. That constitutes an executive. I continue. The PEP head went on to state his belief. Here it is, that no political party hosts internal elections in a general election year. This is 1 year ago. Philip Alexander saying that. Totally contrary to what you just heard him say there. I accept that some people would be concerned at any point in time we could have an internal election, but this is an election year, and generally no political party has an internal election for political leader in an election year. We have to deal with it as it is. You ever hear hypocrisy, so? He just chastising Dr. Rowley. And stage a coup and whatnot, and points to your tongue. But 1 year ago, last year was not an election year. It was the start of this article was written at the start of 2024. By all counts, the general election was due more than a year and some after this. But he cited no political party, he didn't say this is PEP policy, no political party hosts an internal election in a general election year. That's what he said. But want to come now to talk about the PNM didn't hold their internal election. Has the PEP ever had an internal election? So it was good for the PEP last year for you to use that as an excuse to say, well, no political party hosts an internal election for leader in a general election year. So he supported that 1 year ago in March of 2024. But 1 year later in March of 2025, he's singing a totally different tune. And he pushing that, and of course the fully dons latch on to that and talking about, yeah, Rowley's a dictator and thing, and they was talking about UNC internal election. Okay. He goes on to say, furthermore, he said at 7 years old, the PEP is still young. Thus, he said it is not surprising there isn't a constitution. Now, 7 years old, your party is 7 years old, right? And this was the same issue that I had with the PDP and the TPP, the Tobago People's Party. Your party is 7 years old, you don't have a constitution. Your party is 7 years old, you don't have bylaws. 2 of those things are critical if you want to open a bank account for your party. You must have bylaws and you must have a constitution, right? The banks ask for these things because your constitution, your bylaws speaks to who are authorized to sign and all of these different things. So they depend on that information and they need that. I can tell you that first, and I have that experience. So I know you need these things to be able to open an account. But he's telling you 7 years old, and in 7 years, you know you were starting a political party, and for 7 years you couldn't get bylaws or a constitution. How difficult is that to get? How difficult is that? But he's 7 years old, they couldn't. Yeah. I wonder, so they say they're 8 years old. Do they have bylaws? Do they have a constitution? Did the leader of the opposition ask that? So when Philip Alexander and the PEP goes out there soliciting funds, and they get money, remember the PEP told us, not PEP, PDP, when we were told one cocoa this full basket, and that the membership gave them money for the launch in Magdalena. And again, we're asking, well, if the party don't have a bank account, how will you run? How are you operating? Eventually, we heard that they had bylaws and so on. There are certain positions that you should have. Should be to have a chairman. You need to have, well, your political leaders, your general secretary, all of these positions. Does the PEP have any of those things? Right now, the PEP have a political leader. Do they have any deputy political leaders? Notice Ms. Wilkinson made no mention of a chairman, no mention of a general secretary, no mention of a treasurer. 2 people, she said, they couldn't get any information on the party's finances. They couldn't get information because where the finances going? If they have no bank account. So it means people, they could say, well, here now we have a bank account right now, so you can make out the check to Mr. Alexander. Transparency. Because clearly to find out information about the party's finances, you would need to go into Mr. Alexander's private bank account. 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 6 people, 7 people, 8 people, 9 people, 10 people, 11 people, 12 people, 13 people, 14 people, 15 people, 16 people, 17 people, 18 people, 19 people, 20 people, 21 people, 22 people, 23 people, 24 people, 25 people, 26 people, 27 people, 28 people, 29 people, 30 people, 31 people, 32 people, 33 people, 34 people, 35 people, 36 people, 37 people, 38 people, 39 people, 40 people, 41 people, 42 people, 43 people, 44 people, 45 people, 46 people, 47 people, 48 people, 49 people, 50 people, 51 people, 52 people, 53 people, 54 people, 55 people, 56 people, 57 people, 58 people, 59 people, 60 people, 61 people, 62 people, 63 people, 64 people, 65 people, 66 people, 67 people, 68 people, 69 people, 70 people, 71 people, 72 people, 73 people, 74 Where the money going? I just asking that question. And it was the same question was asked at the PDP. Same question asked at the TPP and all of these other parties. Do you all have a bank account? How are you soliciting funds? How are your financiers going to give you money? That they just roll up and hand you a brown envelope and say, hold that. Spend it as you feel like. No accountability, no transparency. But they're always talking about we want campaign finance reform. Yeah, well, for you to talk campaign finance, you need to have finances, you need to have a bank account, right? But I continue. As he reaffirmed his support for the UNC, Alexander said he hopes that the NTA leader, Gary Griffith, and opposition leader, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, makes peace and form a coalition to challenge the PNM. So 1 year ago, he was hoping for Kamla and Gary to get together. Now, he and Gary are sworn enemies. Let me see. I really don't care to read what she said. On November 12th, Alexander stepped down as the head of the PEP, which he founded for a second time. Second time he stepped down. And every time he get the itch and he figure he have an opportunity, what does he do? He just walks back and I come to take back my party. No internal election, no nothing. No, like, the party is mine. I formed it. Right? Yeah, I resigned, but I reserve the right to come back as political leader whenever I choose. Once I say so. No transparency, no democracy, no nothing. When I speak, no damn dog back. But he has audacity to come and talk about Sabga Media and Rowley Polaku and all kind of nonsense. It was due to his legal troubles after a court ordered him to pay $850,000 to Patriotic Front political leader Makila Pandey in November 23. A month prior, Alexander was ordered to pay $525,000 in compensation to Finance Minister Coleman Booth. Of course, we know that he would have appealed that and he lost. In 2019, he was ordered to pay $775,000 in compensation to businessman Andrew Gabriel. All three trials were about defamation. So he has a track record of lying on people, right? His mouth continues to write checks that his bank account cannot cash. And so he stepped out. It's too much. Too much. I'm tying up myself in this election business and look what it's costing me. So when it is you see him vehemently defending Kamla Persad-Bissessar and promoting and talking about he can't wait to get down in the trenches with the likes of Julian John, Anil Roberts, and David Naked, right? Three of the UNC's biggest gutter rats. Can't wait to get down into the trenches. I said even the gutter, even the cesspit, too good for them. Understand? He just looking for money to pay these things. You know? Yeah, he need money. Because he has been a failure in everything else. I said he called Gary Griffith. He said there's Farmer Nappy and Gary is former Nappy because he's former this and former that. And he, of course, failure Nappy. Fail at everything. Every business he put his hand to failed. Right? You fail as a father, you fail as a husband, you fail as a political leader. Right? And now you're trying to see if you could make it as a coalition partner and you'll fail at that too. Because you're a liar. Right? And an inveterate one at that. Dishonest to the hilt, coming and talking about 30,000 Africans in the prison in Trinidad and Tobago when the prison population is less than 6,000, claiming that, doing a live and claiming that the Diego Martin interchange cost $2 billion, when in fact it costs 185. And no shame when it is that you're called out on this nonsense. What do? You block people. Yeah, big man, you have all that mouth and only yapping. You counterfeit 1%. All that yapping that you do. Stand up like a man. But then again, we know that you had to, one of the things you were required to do was to surrender your testicles to Persad-Bissessar when you became part of that coalition. And just so you do, all the mouth you have, you just a pot on and a toothless one at that. All the barking, you're barking by the fence, but as soon as the gate open, you hang down your head and you're going whimpering in the back. All back and no bite. In my back, whimper. And when people call you out on your nonsense on your page, rather than you engage them, if you figure what you're saying is correct, but they come and they jam you with facts, and what do? You block them because you don't want the other people to see that you're called out. So the only people whose comments you're allowing, right, will be those who blindly and foolishly following you. But when people call you out on your nonsense, you had to delete the comment and block because you don't want these people to come back now and to educate the fully dunce who supports you. But he wants to be a government minister. And Kamla Persad-Bissessar has embraced that. Embraced that. Every day doing multiple lives, talking a pack of nonsense. The latest thing I saw he posted out was has to do with the Calypso competition. the Mashra, right? Calypso Monarch. This clown. I mean, just to touch on it quickly, I don't want to delve into it too much because I didn't plan to talk on that. And in the interest of time, I can't touch on everything I wanted to today, but I had to touch a little bit on Prasad Bisesa. Let me get this thing here. Where is it? So he puts out something last night. Can Tuko explain this? The 2025 Calypso Monarch in Trinidad and Tobago was judged by a 5-member panel. This is Philip Alexander putting this out, right? Based on their individual scores, the results were as follows. 2 out of 5 judges scored Kurt Allen as the winner. 1 out of 5 judges scored Karina Ashe as the winner. 1 out of 5 judges scored Tazia O'Connor as the winner. 1 out of 5 judges scored Terry Lyons as the winner. No judge scored Helan Francis as the winner. Despite this, Helan Francis was declared the 2025 National Calypso Monarch, and he's asking if Tuko could explain this. And when you're a consummate dunce and you don't, what you're looking for to stir up couture and bacchanal in every little thing. Every little thing you want to stir up couture and bacchanal. So I'm explaining to him how it works, right? Tuko operates on the high-low system, right? So you know what they do? When all of the judges send in their scores, they discount the highest score and the lowest score, and they keep the others, and they would add those, and they find the and those would be the 3 that they would use. Well, I know we usually use 6 judges, but anyway, he says it's 5. So when you're saying one judge gave this person first place and one judge gave this person's first place, that judge's score would have been taken off. The highest and the lowest is removed, and then they take the remaining scores, and that is what is determined. And therefore, if it comes down to a situation where it is that you have a tie, then they would look at those other scores. Right, Philip? You want Tuko to explain it? That's the explanation. So if a judge was completely blown away and wowed for whatever reason, and that is meant to discount bias, because the judge who gave the lowest score might say, that I find that song too critical of Dr. Rowley. Yes, me like that. Low score. But this score, yeah, I given a high score for that because I like that person, or whatever is the case may be. Right? So to discount the perceived bias, the highest and the lowest is removed, and that's what the difference is what they use. Okay, Philip? You don't need a rocket scientist. Do some research now before you come and try to stir up couture and bacchanal. All you have to do, Tuko don't need to call a whole press conference to come and explain that. Just forget it. Waste that time. So, in the interest of time, because I need to jump off at 9, I see my friend Wendell Eversley is on. Good morning, sir. Gabe Christo, morning to you. Gail Rambali, morning. Let me get this. Or will this thing disappear too? Damn it.
Issue greater precaution.
Yeah, no, take your gravel. I'm playing play too.
Unnamed people encouraging.
Yes, no.
And Maduro with him and Stewart in this conga line. I think that is the worst bend over we have ever seen in history. Rowley and Maduro is the worst bend over we have ever seen in history. Worst ever. Worst bend over. And then he says, you know what? Talks about these visa restrictions. He said there are people here, encouraging the US to take away all your visas. Rowley, where is the evidence? Who are these unnamed people encouraging people to take away visas? Who are these people? Where is the evidence? This is another distraction by Rowley, because you see, everybody warned them. Everybody warned Rowley and crew. And now they're crying about sanctions and visa restrictions. Rowley and Stuart Young know the US government is coming for them and for P&M affiliates. They know it. They know it. So as Anil told us, he now talking about if he don't ever go back to California. Where that coming from, Rowley? You know something we don't know? You know they're coming for you, so you cannot go back to California? So he pretends he don't want to go back, but this is man at every drop of a pin, jumping plane and going off to United States. Stuart Young went to Venezuela. Not once, not twice, 13 times. Stuart Young going, I tell you, burst bend over in history. 13 times he went to Maduro in Venezuela. He and Rowley are the sole causes of any U.S. sanctions on Trinidad and Tobago. Get that right? They are the ones for any U.S. sanctions on our country. So he boasted.
Let me remind, since she forget about visas, right? Let me get this here. Where is it, boy? Where is it? This is an article from 28th of January 2019. U.S. visa fears is nonsense, says government. Talk by the opposition United National Congress that Trinidadians holding U.S. visas should be fearful is being rubbished by Communications Minister Stuart Young. At the party's National Assembly in Cuba on Sunday, opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar said there were more than 200,000 Trinidad and Tobago citizens who hold United States visas and can be impacted by Prime Minister Dr. Rowley's not-so-veiled attack on the United States over its stance on Venezuela. However, Young said the government felt compelled to reassure citizens that the attempt to cause panic by the UNC, and in particular Persad-Bissessar, by creating fear about a change in relations between Trinidad and Tobago and the United States is unfounded and a naked attempt to cover up the most recent overwhelming criticism of the opposition. Now, you may recall when it is that this government took its position with respect to, at that time, the issue that was taking place with supporting Juan Guaido and supporting Maduro or taking a neutral position. As this government did, Dr. Rowley said the government's position was, we are not supporting anybody. Our position is we remain neutral, but we have diplomatic relations with Venezuela, and therefore whoever answers the phone in Miraflores when we call is who we dealing with. That is the person who is who, as far as we know, is legitimately sitting there. So we are not going to go contrary to that. If it is that Mr. Guaido finds himself in Miraflores and he is answering the phone when we call the presidential phone, we will deal with him. Kamala took a different approach. Want the world to know that the UNC supports Juan Guaido. Remember that? Right. And when it is, they kept doubling down and tripling down on that. And I think she's referenced it on numerous occasions that Dr. Rowley and Camille Robinson, where you see what Trump could do. You know what Trump could do? 200,000 of our citizens holding US visas, and Trump could take back the visas and cancel the visas and stuff. She also spoke about something called the Caribbean Basin Initiative, which is some security arrangement that they have. And when that comes up for renewal, and Mr. Trump could decide that he's not going to renew it, and all of these different things that put the country at risk and all of that. This was Persad-Bissessar speaking in 2018, 2019. So when she comes now to talk about where is the evidence of that, we saw where recently when Mexico refused to accept migrants that were being deported by the US, migrants not just from Mexico but from other countries, when it is that planes were loaded up and sent to Mexico with migrants, and the government there decided that they were not going to accept and were not going to allow the aircraft to land, Mr. Trump decided that he was going to revoke the visas of certain government officials and so on, and bring sanctions and the like. And eventually Mexico decided to yield, right? And it seems like somebody gets a bright idea, but this is not the first time. We've been hearing the UNC calling on the US to sanction Stuart Young and sanction Dr. Rowley for a number of years now, since during COVID, right? When it is that the Venezuelan Vice President Delcy Rodriguez came here, they were calling on the government they wrote, in fact, to the US authorities calling on them to sanction Dr. Rowley and Stuart Young. This is nothing new. And so they get a bright idea about visas now. And Dr. Rowley wouldn't just pull these things out of a hat. He wouldn't pull it out of a hat. So clearly, these are things that he would have been informed of. And I don't put it past the UNC to be doing these things, to try and embarrass because they realize all this talk they're talking about sanctions coming and the US coming for Rowley and this nonsense Prasad Bisesa mentioned the other day anyway as the saying goes, who the gods wish to destroy they first make mad. Oh, Dr. Rowley, he's retiring because he's looking to flee the country and so on because the US coming for him. Coming for him for what? Coming for him for what? Prasad Bisasa seems to forget, right? As she mentioned just now, that Stuart Young would have gone to Venezuela 13 times. And on each of those 13 occasions that he went to Venezuela, he had the support of and the permission of the United States of America to engage with Maduro. All of these licenses that were given, the various OFAC licenses and stuff, some of which Donald Trump would have revoked recently. Chevron, which was a company operating in Venezuela, main one mentioned so far. Chevron has gas stations in the United States of America, some of which would have been fueled, I suppose, by oil that would have been refined from what they got in Venezuela. So this obviously impacts Chevron's bottom line. Look at what is happening now in the United States of America with the economy. The stock market is tanking. Yesterday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 890 points. It has now erased all of the gains that it would have made from November 5th come forward. And it is now threatening to go even below that. Right? So Mr. Trump's policies, which right now is causing some upheaval, not just in the United States, but globally, because again, I was talking to one of my colleagues yesterday who is in the investment field and who is a senior at a major investment house in this country. And he was telling me, because one of our other colleagues was complaining about the low returns that he's getting on his investments with certain investment houses. And my colleague was saying, well, look, don't expect it to get any better, because remember, we invest a lot in equities in the US market. And with the turmoil that is taking place there now, it's sooner rather than later, it is going to impact on the returns that local investment houses get. So I'm seeing this now. When we get another report with respect to the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, you all recall a couple of years ago when the Heritage and Stabilization Fund would have reported a loss of close to $1 billion US, and the UNC that's supposed to be responsible jump out and say, where the money gone and they thief the money and what kind of thing. They have a basic understanding, I would like to think, of how the stock market works, right? And a lot of money, the Heritage and Stabilization Fund is a US dollar denominated entity, and they invest a lot in US equities, right? Not just US equities that are sold in the United States, but that are offered by other jurisdictions as well. So when it is that you have turmoil in the US stock market, obviously it is going to impact the returns on those investments. Last year was a very good year to invest. Excellent year to invest in US equities. The final year in Joe Biden's tenure as president. Never mind the fact that Prasad Bisasa talked about it was disastrous and so on. Look at the impact in the space of a month and a half, how the markets have turned. There is uncertainty, there is volatility, because businesses are unable to plan because they don't know what the US president is going to do. He could just sign an executive order that has the potential to throw the markets into so much turmoil that you're going to lose billions and trillions of dollars. And that is happening right now. So today the stock market is down, then it up tomorrow, then it down again. The cryptocurrency market, again, Bitcoin that just the other day was over 100,000, about 108,000. I think it had reached an all-time high. Is now, yesterday I see it went down to 79,000. When just a few months ago, there were projections that Bitcoin could go by middle of this year to about 250,000 US for one. It is now back in the doldrums. And again, because of government policy. Once there is uncertainty, people start to panic, because equity investing and investing in stock markets and those types of investments, it is based on emotion. So people who don't have much understanding about how these investments work, from the time they see price start to drop, share price start to drop, they start to panic. Oh gosh, I lost my money, I'm going and lost my money. Let me pull out and salvage what I could. You don't do that. You stay invested, because these are supposed to be medium to long-term investments. And that is supposed to be explained to you. You put in your money, you get your dividends, and over the time, you're going to get some appreciation in the price of your holdings. And therefore, if you decide to sell later on, you buy low and you sell high. You don't buy low and then sell lower. You stay invested. Do not panic. Right? But people are panicking. And of course, who trying to salvage to see what they could. And it is impacting the market. So when it is in a couple of months, you see the Heritage and Stabilization report comes out and it says that there is a loss or there is a decline in the value. Those folks are going to come to tell you, oh, it's mismanagement and they should have known to do this. And Joala Rambaran will surface again and come and try and cast aspersions. But just please take note. It's not just the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, not just ours. Sovereign wealth funds around the world are going to take a hit. Okay? I think Norway, which has the largest Heritage and Stabilization Fund or sovereign wealth fund in the world, when we suffered a loss of close to 1 billion US, they were like 100 and something billion US dollars was lost, and they have since recovered because the markets recovered over the last couple of years. Right? But we're in a state of turmoil right now, so they're going to try to use that in coming months. They will, because remember, it's a quarterly report that comes out. So while this quarter may not do all that well, there are other quarters to come, and hopefully there will be some level of stability with respect to government policy in the US, and that will return confidence to the equities market, and we could see some improvement in terms of returns. But for now, I'm just putting you on guard that when that happens and the report comes out, do not be fooled when they come to tell you that they're mismanaging and they're raiding the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. They're going to use that to try and rein in the fully dunce who like to hear things like that. Right? So just making mention of that. But to hear her come and talk about the visas, but I ain't finished yet. She didn't stop there. She continued.
Posted that he had two main priorities, Mr. Rowley. One, guess what? Healthcare. Healthcare. The worst it has ever been in our history. From a man who is such a hypocrite, Rowley, that every time he sneezes, he jumps on a plane and flies off to the US for healthcare, but says he has the best healthcare in Trinidad and Tobago. You hear lie? You hear lie? You hear lie? That is lie. Then he sent his second legacy is in education. But look at the violence in our schools. Look at how many schools that were almost completed that they have failed to now complete. Look at the state of bullying in our schools. They have understaffed the schools. They have sabotaged your educational opportunities. So Rowley, don't pretend that your best legacy is in healthcare, which is in shambles, and our education sector, which is also in shambles. It will take a UNC government to restore a working healthcare system and to bring back an education system for the benefit of all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And before I leave Rowley, because the man talking whole morning. First, he told us our problems were Likoto Jumbi. You remember that? Then they have some people going to Florida to talk to the dead. And now he tells us about telepathic power. Telepathic power to come and rescue TNPP Trinidad and Tobago. This is PNM dotishness to the highest order. Mr. Rowley, all that has to happen is just go. Pack your bags and run away. Now is the time. Dissolve the parliament. Call the election. So talking about the US again, we know the US is one of our strongest trading partners. We know how much we depend in trade on the US. We know how many things that we have that friendship with the US. And guess what today? The US State Department has updated their travel advisory system, identifying nations where there is heightened caution being urged on their citizens coming here. One of them is Trinidad and Tobago. Everybody knew this was coming except the Rowley government. Those idiots in our government, they made a big song and dance about making gun crimes acts of terrorism. Remember that was his first was what, a public health something, and now it is acts of terrorism. What did Rowley think would have happened when he stupidly broadcasted to the world that we have terrorists in Trinidad and Tobago committing crimes? What did he expect? And the US, the radar goes up, the antenna goes up. When you hear terrorists, they're looking for terrorists everywhere in the world. And our own Prime Minister is saying we have terrorists committing crimes in Trinidad and Tobago. So don't blame me. Don't blame the UNC. Don't blame the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Blame yourself and Stuart Young for the US sanctions. Blame yourselves. Any foreign country hearing about terrorists here, they will automatically issue greater precautions to their citizens. Tonight, I want to tell you, moving to another point, I have to warn you, because sometimes we get chained up. We like people. We are good people. We like people. Everybody has a spark of the divine in them. We are all children of God. But sometimes Satan leads them astray. Sometimes. And therefore, I want you to remember this. When you go to vote in this election, which will be the mother of all elections for the soul of Trinidad and Tobago.
Souls.
Remember, any vote for the smaller parties, any vote for smaller parties being financed by the PNM, any such votes, you know what will happen? You will lose your pensions.
So she started fearmongering. So I see the attack Makila Pandey. All right. So, but we will deal with that on Tuesday because we don't have time this morning. But they've launched the attack now on Makila Pandey. Why? Because the Patriotic Front yesterday announced another 7 candidates. So they are now at 14. So there are 5 more candidates ahead than the UNC. So the Patriotic Front, which is a new party, right, has been able to field 14 candidates so far. And when you look at the names of the candidates you have, seem to be some people of quality, Dr. So-and-so and Dr. So-and-so. That don't necessarily, but I mean, at least, it's some quality. It's not potons like Anil Roberts and David Naked and stuff, the bottom of the barrel that they're looking to get any old scallywag who present themselves. People who seem to be clean, right, and have integrity, who are not known to be involved in a wrong stand-up. Not the caliber of people that the UNC is attracting to their stable, right? People who questionable, no good. So Mr. What's his name? Mr. Watts, they say have some questions over his head as well. And then you have people like, anyway, when you look at some of the speakers that they had last night. But so now they're attacking Makila because the 36-year-old party, that is the UNC, has so far named 9 candidates when they were first out of the stables. The first of all the political parties to call for nominations since early last year. Since January last year, they were calling for nominations for persons to represent the party in the general election. They closed off nominations on April 12th last year. And so far have named 9 candidates. But the Patriotic Front, which probably started doing screening this year, has been able to name 14 candidates so far, right? Ahead, they have more out on the field than the UNC. But yet still the supporters, UNC, I'm proud. UNC, what are you proud of? The PNM announced yesterday that they have 41 candidates. All 41 have been screened and named. And come this Sunday, they will be having a special convention at 10 a.m. at the City Hall for the first presentation of the candidates. And then at 2 o'clock, I think they will be having the presentation at Woodford Square to the public of their 41 candidates. The only political party contesting the election that has named 41 candidates, right? So the only political party that if the election bell is rung today, tomorrow, or next week, is ready in terms of its candidate field. No other political party. None. And most likely the PNM will probably more than likely be the only party fielding 41 candidates, unless the Patriotic Front could do so. But the fact that we know for a fact the UNC will not be fielding 41, they will be fielding 39, they're only contesting seats in Trinidad. So they will not. Now they call themselves a national party, right? But imagine if Patriotic Front were to put out 41 candidates. I think they would probably be the only other political party within recent times to have done so, other than the People's National Movement. It tells you, are they ready? UNC really ready? You let the same pop-up party and small party that you're talking about have more candidates out on the field than you, a 36-year-old party. The UNC is a big hardback man, 36 years, and only 9 candidates so far. And try all kind of foolish excuses you're given. Well, you know, we have already completed our screening and so on, but we've been now putting together and we analyzing the options. And rubbish. Or they're still struggling to get quality people and trying to see this one I got, that one I got. Oh gosh, but that's the best we could get. I ain't fooling nobody. Miss us for that rubbish. So you're attacking the patriotic front now. But the point that I wanted to highlight there from that little clip, when she talked about sanctions on who to blame for sanctions and so on. I mean, if Dumb was a person, every single thing that Stuart Chung and Dr. Oli would have done with respect to the dragon gas and the coquina mannequin and so on was in fact approved by the US. That's why Dr. Oli mentioned Stuart Chung doing shuttle work between Port of Spain, Washington, and Caracas. Washington at every step of the way was fully aware of what was taking place. Fully aware, right? They had the blessings of the man who was in charge, Joe Biden. They had the blessings of Kamala Harris. They were ably assisted by members of Congress. So several persons involved in the highest levels of US government were assisting Trinidad and Tobago with respect to the negotiations with Mr. Maduro. All of these concessions that Mr. Trump is now describing as foolish by Sleepy Joe Biden and so on. The evidence is there to show. So Stuart Chung and Dr. Oli didn't do anything wrong. They didn't breach any US sanctions. They had the permission, right? And they had the blessings of the US government, the highest level, the president, who would have given and provided the licenses and so on. And that's still in existence. Our OFAC license hasn't been cancelled as yet. So all this talk about sanction and Rowley, no, they come in for him and they come in for Stuart Chung. It's only fair among us such a nonsense and dotish talk from somebody who should know better. But the fact of the matter is she's happy because now, if it is that the licenses are pulled and they come back into office, they can say, well, don't blame us. Don't blame us for Dragon not going through and coquina mannequin or whatever. Don't blame us. Don't blame us because we have been maligning Maduro and he still remains the president of Venezuela. And therefore, we cannot engage with him because all the nasty things we said about him, he don't want nothing to do with us, and so therefore we are responsible. No, it's because Donald Trump pulled the licenses, so don't blame us. But last night, that the consummate drunk, right, the bald-headed rum cock, talking about the political leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar, she supports the dragon gas deal, and she supports it, but she supports it once it is negotiated properly with a president who is not a dictator and who is not this and who is not that. Yes, but we support it. All of a sudden, they support the same thing they said with Sandals. They maligned Sandals, the agreement, and then which wasn't even negotiated. Let us not forget that. It was the same thing with the Petrotrin refinery, right? No deal has been made. No negotiations has taken place yet. The government simply selected a bidder, and they're saying, no, go and sit down with TPHL and only hammer out an agreement. We've gotten to that stage. Sandals was never allowed to get to that stage, right? The negotiation team that was to have been led by Wendell Motley never got an opportunity to sit down with the Sandals officials and negotiate something. What they had was a memorandum of understanding, which would have provided a platform. But in terms of the actual negotiations, it never took place. That committee never got to do its work. Gordon Butch George said Trinidad and Tobago is too damn political, and he said, I don't need that. You're tarnishing my brand. Your newspapers come in and publishing front page story talking about something that happened at one of the Sandals resorts in the Bahamas 2 years ago, where a couple went to get married, and it was alleged that the bride was sexually assaulted by the butler, and so on. You, a noted media house, decided to publish that 2 years after. To do and for what purpose? Because you published a story. The head of Sandals, well, the second in command, had a press conference and rubbished everything you see, and not being able to stand by what you publish. You come to tarnish the people. And the man says, you see that? I don't need that. We gone. End of that. Afterwards, well, we didn't want Sandals to go in. It's not that we didn't support Sandals, but it's just that we wanted transparency and probity, and we wanted to know what was being. There was nothing negotiated. All of them coming and saying that now, after the fact. We weren't against Sandals, but it's just that the government was being too secretive. So they come in to say now, the bald-headed clown last night. The Kamala Persad and the UNC, we support the dragon gas deal and we support this and we support that, but we just want to be supported once it is properly negotiated. What is properly negotiated? So Stuart Young going to Venezuela 13 times wasn't for proper negotiations. Stuart Young having the backing of and the permission of the US government at the highest level, the President of the United States. We saw where they would have had meetings with Kamala Harris, whether it be in person when he went to the White House, or if it was by Zoom with Dr. Rowley and them talking to Kamala Harris and Maxine Walters and all of these people, Hakeem Jeffries and all of them, talking to these people and using them, lobbying through them to be able to bring this thing to fruition. And they want to tell you that is not proper negotiation because they're supporting Donald Trump. So what he says, well, all right, we'll continue to go down that road now. Dr. Rowley made the point yesterday, which was critical, that if we don't get dragon gas and so on, cook. Let me hear what Persad Bissessa has to say about that. She will wave her magic wand and money will appear. Or we will start to print money in Trinidad and Tobago, or maybe all that they thief between 2010 and 2015, they will bring it back. Because don't forget, put them back in office, they plan to come and reverse the law that with respect to the cotton notes. So all who have cotton notes still, don't worry, we go fix that for you. Or you can come and bring it in and we will exchange it for the new money. Right? But we will talk more on Tuesday. Mr. Yates, good morning. Yes, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Just have a couple of points I would like to share with you.
Sure.
And share with everybody else. First of all, I just want Madam Bissessa, what the protocol, Madam Petticoat. I just wanted to understand one or two things. I wanted to know, first of all, that we ain't born yesterday. We are not damn fools and jacks in Trinidad and Tobago. I've said this before, and I'm going to repeat it, because it is always worth repeating. Ms. Bissessa, let me tell you something. Do feel, and I will constantly remind the people of this country of this, don't feel we will ever forget that when you were sworn in, Ishgal Balancing's wife was very much in attendance. The only way somebody could end up at something like a swearing in ceremony, you did tertiary education, Mr. Roman, you know about graduation ceremony. It's either a close relative, a brother, sister, parent, or parents who have the privilege, because they limit the amount of people who could attend that classified function.
Yes.
And it's even worse when a new prime minister is being sworn in. It's either your husband, your wife, or your child, or your children. How the hell is Galbaran Singh's wife, Cheryl Galbaran Singh, end up there with your swearing-in ceremony? You tell this country that before you open your mouth and talk about that damn nonsense. You must tell this country, you're talking about Rowley and Stuart Young corrupt. You tell the people of this country how the hell Cheryl Galbaran Singh end up in your swearing-in ceremony at Knowsley Building in 2010. How come? When everybody knows that a husband had been in the courts of this country with Python and others since about 2004. So at least 6 years before you became Prime Minister, they were living in the courthouse, living in the Hall of Justice. But she ended up miraculously at your swearing-in ceremony. What does that tell the people of this country? That you all are family friends. We ain't stupid, we ain't dotish, we ain't just come down, we ain't born yesterday. And put the pieces together after attending your ceremony, your swearing-in ceremony. 1 year later, your government, your cabinet, led by you as Prime Minister, took the critical and mortal decision on the people of this country that you're not extraditing her husband and Steve Ferguson. You led a corrupt regime that endorsed and supported thieving and corruption. I'm telling you that this morning. In the name of God, what other reason you could have for taking the decision? It's your cabinet, your administration, with family friends. What other justification you all could have, as the leader of that cabinet, to decide that you're not extraditing Galbraithing and Ferguson? What other reason you could have? We ain't stupid, madam. We are born yesterday talking stupidness about sanctions for Rowley and Stuart. You come in with that now? What conclusion you want us to draw? What conclusion you want? 1 year later, 1 year after you were sworn in as Prime Minister, you and your cabinet decide you're not extraditing Galbraithing and Ferguson when the man wife was there at your swearing-in ceremony. Tell me what is more corrupt than that. You tell me that. And to compound the evil, you come this 2011, You were sworn in 2010. 1 year later, he mustn't be sent to Florida for trial. For being in collusion with American businessmen to thief from the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Right? Endorser, upholder. What other explanation you leave us to conclude? And 1 year later, after that, 2012, you come with Section 34 to end all the charges and come in, and when they catch you back in back, you're telling people about, well, Section 34 was meant to benefit a lot of men who were languishing on remand yard. Really? Really? Well, tell me something, Madam Petticoat. Independence Day, August 31st, 2012, was a Friday, public holiday. Bright and early Monday morning, only lawyers for Galbraithing and Ferguson at 8 o'clock were waiting outside on St. Vincent Street, waiting for the courts to open. How come neither the men on remand yard nor their families knew about Section 34? You say a lot of them stood to benefit. How come no lawyer for any of them fellas was standing up outside the courthouse the Monday morning, the 3rd of September, 2012? How come? It was meant to benefit Galbraithing and Ferguson. That is what it was meant to be. We're not dotish, We ain't come down yesterday. We know where it's at. And we know what a UNC regime. So let me put it this way. While Pandey created that nasty airport baby, your administration endorsed the corruption by protecting the damn thieves who bled this country dry. That is what your administration did. And we will never forget it. And I am saying today, I hope every black person in this country, because the Indians will vote for your party anyway, but I hope every black person in this country listens very carefully to what I am saying this moment and the truth. Finally, let me just say this. You mentioned a name earlier of a pathologist, a forensic pathologist, Ramnath Chandulal, who, by the way, was hired by the Pandey regime. Look, in 1998, there was a bad boys trial. Performed the veins, performed the autopsy on that young boy, that Johnson boy that bad boys killed. That boy's defense lawyer was Carla St. Phillips. He bring Chandulal in the court, and his I was there. The trial lasted about 3 days. Put him in the witness box, and Chandulal was rattling off about 25 doctorates he had in forensic pathology. His contract was coming to an end at the end of the 90s. You know what he did? He applied to the medical school at Montauk to be hired as a lecturer in forensic pathology. You know what they did? They turned down the application because they discovered that there was 4 or 5 or 6 doctorates he said he had in pathology. Every one was fraudulent. Every one was fraudulent. He got them from diploma mills across the world. And they turned down his application. Why do I raise that? You know who was the director of the medical school at that time? A gentleman by the name of Dr. Hubert Daisley. Why is Daisley's name so important? When UNC had their first anti-crime talks, remember they didn't sit in on the one that the committee that Dr. Rowley assembled, and they had their first pride of place on the platform. Dr. Indira Rampasad, lecturer in political science from yes, and guess who was sitting down next to the professor? Dr. Hubert Daisley. The same man who turned down Chandola's application, the same Chandola who was hired by Pandit and who performed the autopsies on the Dolce gang. So this man ended up on a UNC platform, having turned down the application of a fraud who was hired by the Pandey administration. I just wanted to put that in the mix. But to close off, Madam Bissessa, we ain't choking. We have the facts. We have the chronology. We have the chronology. Imagine Galbaran Singh and Soja Singh combined were facing when they opened this big document, they usually, I forget the name slips me now. Combined, they were facing about 150 indictments. But what you did, you protected them from going to Florida to face the music. That is what your legacy in the UNC, your legacy as cabinet leader and as the leader of a cabinet of frauds and thieves and a cabinet protectors of thieves and scams in this country. Thanks, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, sir. Let me just switch this thing here, and I would actually want to talk about sanctions, but on that same matter that Mr. Yates would have mentioned, let us not forget that when they took a decision not to extradite Ishan Steve, that the then U.S. Ambassador Beatrice Welters, I think was her name, she expressed that the United States government was very displeased, very disturbed and very displeased with that development, right? And but they weren't talking about sanctions then. No. One second, let me just switch this thing here. Yeah, these are the things that the fully dunces forget, right? Just get this here. Right, just Jenny. Hello. Jenny.
Hi, morning, Dominic.
Morning.
Morning to all those who are locked on and tuning to Facts and Stubborn Things. We were told that Kamla Prasad Bissessa is charming and deceptive. When I look at the synonym of deceptive, it's extending or having power to cause someone to accept as true or valid what is false or invalid.
Hello?
Dominic?
Yeah, Jen. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just not hearing anything.
Yeah.
Right, so as I was saying, when people show us who they are, we have a tendency, because we are those kind of persons who are very forgiving and want to give people another chance. So we tend not to believe them. And we tend to say, you know what, they could change, it must be so. Yeah, and we don't get caught up. I want to tell those who listen this morning, Kamla Prasad Bissessa, based on her history that we could show clearly, is a dangerous liar. That is my opinion. My opinion also is that the UNC, especially under Kamla Prasad Bissessa, does not have the interest of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago at heart. It has selfish motive for friends, family, and those who are loyal. Those are my opinions. And that is not the type of political party that you want in office in a multi-ethnic, cosmopolitan country. Because it means to say there are certain segments of the country will be victimized, discriminated against, prejudiced against. And in 2025, to have that type of behavior from a political party, a political leader, some of its members, some of its supporters, does nothing but divide Trinidad and Tobago. And at this point in our history, we need all hands on deck. We need us to have a united front. Just as we see Canada is doing, the whole of Canada is united against what the Trump administration and the tariffs that has been put on Canada. All of them, whether opposition or not, Canada has come together as a nation to stand up in defense of Canada. Mexico is also doing the same thing. Europe has had meetings to come together to treat with issues of the things that President Trump is doing. So if we in the Caribbean want to study Kamapasad Bisnesa, who we know already is very reckless in her words. We saw what happened with Jamaica. And if we didn't believe it, when Dr. Roddy went to his last CARICOM meeting, and they were complimenting him, praising, accolades on him, giving him his flowers, the Jamaican Prime Minister reminded us that when there was this economic crisis, I'm putting it my way, when there was the economic crisis that was going to affect Trinidad and Tobago, because of what Kamla Pasadi said about Trinidad and Tobago not being an ATM machine. And Jamaica took offense to that and started to take off all our local manufacturers' goods off the shelf because they are the biggest buyers of our manufactured goods. So our whole manufacturing sector could have crashed. People would have lost their jobs. We'd have lost GNP. And Dr. Rowley in a female office in 2016 found out about the situation and had to fly to Jamaica. And the Prime Minister of Jamaica alluded to how he treated with the issue, and we had peace, economic peace. And we see coming out of that now, we are also supporting Jamaica in their venture into the crude oil or the refinery business by buying the marine fuel or the substance from that to bunker it. We buy it at one price and we're going to sell it at a different price to make a profit. Because all the cruise ship and marinas, all everything that's come down here, even when it having storm that has come down here to keep the boat and the yacht and the catamaran safe. So we are a hub of that activity and we could sell them the fuel. So we're making money, Jamaica making money. But again, they denounce that and they come out and they cry it down. But you know, I'm asking a question. If we were doing that type of trade with Suriname or Guyana, would it satisfy them? Because there was a time, there was a push by some in the Indian community, some intellectuals also, to join those three countries, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, and Suriname, and form some type of new motherland, India, in the Caribbean. I may not be putting it exactly how they were doing it, but that's the gist of it. So I go back to what I was saying again. If people in this country want us to step back in time, they want us to crash the economy, they want chaos, mayhem, and bacchanal and confusion, they don't want productivity and efficiency. You ain't get perfection, you know, because there's no perfection in man. All of us have fallen short of the glory of God, however, we are striving for that. And the People's National Movement is clearly a cut above the rest. The history is there to show that. You don't have to depend on what I say, or what Dominic say, or whoever that says. It's from 1956. They have never changed the name from the People's National Movement. They have always said we will win alone, we will lose alone. They have always stood on principle. It is an organization that has stood the test of time from 1956 to 2025. Has any other political party in Trinidad and Tobago able to say the same? And it's not that the PNM will not have the internal rumbling. However, there's a discipline and a process in place to treat with that. One man, one vote, everybody has a voice. There's a place to have your voice heard. and it does be heard, and they treat with it. But no, they don't like that. They want the bacchanal confusion that we have seen the UNC and the PDP and the COP and all the other parties. And then they go say that is true democracy. Not understanding if you have an organization, there must be discipline. It will have diverse ideas, diverse thoughts. Everybody will not agree, but the majority rules. And then everybody comes together for the greater good. And the People's National Movement has always stood in defense of Trinidad and Tobago. All citizens, government policies show you. They have never put a government policy in the PNM for just African people, or just Indian or Chinese or Syrian. Has been always for all citizens. Free education, universal education. It was not just for one group of people in this country. All peoples in this country. So if people want to discount those facts and want to bring in a woman who clearly, based on what Bernard St. Rose and Chaco and all of them say, because I never see her. But I saw her on TV the time when with the election thing and she's singing and all that. But I could come to the conclusion that she was drunk, but I could be wrong. But they say that she does drink hard, she does smoke hard, she fall long drunk. And it's because her drunkenness, singing. Philip Alexander said she's singing. Oh God, she's drunk. And if that is one people want to put with Annie Roberts, who every time they want to talk about Minister Stuart Young disrespected women, because on a hot mic, he was saying, if they go into Zambia, they're using that and say, that disrespect and abuse a woman. But you have Annie Roberts, who is a senator in we parliament or senate, saying that the first woman president of this country, not Annie Roberts naked, is an insipid jackass. You have Annie Roberts, also a senator, going on his program every time to talk about Diane, Dr. Diane that got the pum pum and red chair, and who has small pin and all that. And that's what all they want to accept in this country. And saying that is truth and that is how it should be. And you have another one calling woman BITCH. And all they balling BITCH and all that. And that's what they want to go to say, well, you know, that free speech, the democracy. Really? All they want chaos? All they go vote Kamala Prasad, Bethesda, and UNC. If all they want truth, if all they want the country to go forward in an orderly way where all races could enjoy, and where we work together hand in hand because we are cosmopolitan country, every creed and race find an equal place. All they will vote the People's National Movement, headed by Minister Stuart Young. And it's simple as that. And as to the PSA election yesterday, well, I just call them the PSA UNC team. They're in office, they're back in office. So it means a couple of things. Either public officers don't care or they just like it so. Because I will tell public officers and put them a notice from today. If all they think was bad for the public officers for the last 12 years, all they buckle down, all they see nothing yet, and it will be the government fault. All they go care legitimately, but it's the government. All they got to blame all themselves for the low voter turnout and for letting these people go back in office. And finally, if all they feel, God forbid, Kamala Prasad Bethesda gets back into office and public officers will get 10% for the period 2014, 16, and 17, 19. I want to ask all you something. If they have been telling all you, the economy bad, people suffering, people poor, people will eat grass, it has no investment coming in, if they have no money in the country, and if, where they going to get 10% to give all you? Are they going to go to the IMF? Because once they do that, that is loss of public officers' job. We saw it happen already. That is cutting all social programs. That means the 65-year-old she talking about, who through this government or cut the pension, but they're going to really get cut and through because the IMF don't care about those social programs. They only wanted to put things in place, austerity measures, structural adjustments to make that money to pay the loan. So they get caught up and be like, the dog with the bone. Study the 4% enough. We will get 10%. And only watching all the shadow in the water and seeing it reflected and looking bigger, open all them out and realize the bone slip out all them out and it was just an illusion. Dominic, thank you as usual for always giving me the opportunity to speak. And at the end of the day, because when they want one minister Spiotio, he has integrity. He has shown that. He's committed, he's dedicated, and he loves Trinidad and Tobago because he's born here and he grew right here and he wants us to be best for us. So if only don't want that in our prime minister to lead our government, well, then all you, as old people will say, who don't hear, don't feel. And in this time in our history, with a president like Donald Trump, if you're not together and you're divided, that's failure. So let's again thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Jen. Let me see here. Do this here. Brian. So, let's see what's going on here, Brian. Let me just get this here. One sec. What's going on with this thing here? Brian.
Dominic.
Yes, sir. Morning.
Morning, Dominic.
Morning.
Morning to your listeners and callers. Jumping off what you said this morning and what Jenny said. When Joe Biden he was giving his last speech before he left office, he warned about the chaos that will take place under Donald Trump. And all the madness. And you alluded to that a bit this morning. And Jenny has just warned us. If we care to heed the warning, if we go back and put that lady back in office. You know what happened yesterday, Dominic, as you said? When the market in America tanked, the billionaires sat behind Donald Trump while he was taking his oath of office, collectively lost $209 billion US. Let me repeat that. In one day, over the last couple of days, they have lost over $209 billion US. And every branch of the head of Doge, his name Musk, all of his businesses, every branch has been protested in the United States, right around the United States. They have broken his glass and so on of his building, showrooms. Around the world where he is selling his Tesla, they have shown where he has suffered losses of between 40 and 60% of sales of business. Understand? And because of those tariffs, the man in the street is paying a lot more for goods in the grocery today already. They're already showing the signs. And they're showing you that in red states, Americans are protesting. In town hall meetings, many of the Republican Congress representatives are refusing to attend the meetings in person. They are doing them via telephone because of the rage of the people. In other words, they didn't learn. They didn't realize that, hey, when he was in there, between 2016 and 2020, what happened, what he did. So now that he is back, he's moving even faster, as I keep saying. He is now scorching because he knows what to do. It is the same thing with Kamala Prasad because she knows what to do. You think it's going to get any better? Kamala Prasad had a Governor General of the Central Bank who on the 9th of September or thereabouts, when he knew who the finance minister was, told him you only have 3 days money. You have to find money else out to the tap. In other words, he sat.
Brian? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, Brian.
Right. In other words, he sat there and he looked at the money in the bank dwindling. Juwala Rambaran. You saw it go down and we only had about 6 months money, then 5 months, then 4 months, then 3 months, then 2 months, then 1 month, then 2. You didn't say a word. So you know if the money was dwindling, you know there was no economic movement in the country. And Kamala Prasad was telling us everything good, lying to the people. She knew there was no money. She knew. Larry Hawaii knew there was no money. Juwala Rambaran saw the governor of the central bank caretaker of the bank that the money was dwindling and it would have none. And he didn't say anything. And people were to go and vote back for those people. Knowing fully well that Juwala Rambaran may very well come back as governor of the central bank because he was very loyal to Kamala Prasad Bisesa and don't say anything. And when we feel we have money, it's because them borrowing and setting up the overdraft on the exchequer account. Again, so the public debt will now maybe go to maybe with $100 billion because now that they know how to thief and how to lie. Is this what we're going back to vote for? All that Dr. Rowley and Churchill would have done over the years, in 9 years, she's attempted to debunk it and say the worst time ever in the health sector is the worst, even after what Dr. Rowley did yesterday. I had to listen this morning to Edie Amin Stewart, the head of the Registered Nurses Association. Bad talk. He said the new central block. I said, where they will get nurses from? That is all he's concerned about. He's saying that for years. No nurses, no nurses, no nurses. No pediatric nurses, no this, no that. If you hear this man this morning, he has nothing good to say about what he said, the new central block being opened up yesterday. Nothing good to say. Nothing good to say about the new hospitals. Do you know, Dominic, that Cuba hospital, so that you go correct, should have been in Shogunas area. You know, Shogunas have all those people, all those residents have no major hospital, and if they get sick, they have to go to either Mount or come down to Central. I want to say Central, I mean Cuba, where they have the multitude of people. Kamala Prasad Bisesa and Basdio Pandey didn't see it fit to put that hospital where it was really supposed to go. And look at where they put it, on the outskirts of Cuba, where you have to get in your tail to get if you don't have your own car. And I recall that even when she had opened it, the road had caved in, and this government had to come and not only to recalibrate the equipment and so on, but had to redo the road. over, if you recall.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? And the Minister of Health, the thing spoke about it. He said, listen, we have to bring somebody down to calibrate the instrument because we cannot use it on humans. They will die. It was not calibrated. He spoke about that. And these are the people we want to put back in office. Talking about when UNC win, everybody wins. Win what? When you drain the central bank, when you drain the treasury, and you drain everywhere else, including NGC money, and wherever else you can get your hands on money. And nobody's asking these people where the $800 million gone that KPMG cannot find, where the $400 million gone from Life Sport. Mr. Daniel is a dead man in going to his grave, and we still can't account for the $56 million that was given to him up to now that Choko Augusta, Warula. How come you're not asking these questions? We're talking about put them back. And Dr. Rowley would have done everything by the book as far as that dragon deal was concerned. And that's why he explained to us he had short young back and forth between America and Venezuela to ensure that we got that OFAC license and the dragon deals and those deals. That is why he was going to Venezuela, because they have the gas. Over 200 trillion scoops of gas to assist us because we are the Don't tell us to go and look at what you have in your have written in your way policy in your manifesto. We don't want that. You tell us how are you going to raise revenue because we need to ask follow-up questions. Nobody asking those questions. But you bad talking the hospitals in Arima, San Grande, and all these other places, that even the upgrading of the San Fernando General, the air condition for people and all that sort of thing. I mean, come on, what is this we saying? Dr. Rowley and the Minister of Health was at nauseam to explain yesterday how we would benefit from the new hospital block. How we would benefit and what are the plans for it. But you see, people want it built today, and they open up, and that's it, and you start to install things, bam, bam, and that's it, and it have sick people in it, not patients. Nobody at all is thinking and saying, well, listen, everybody looking to find fault. Why? Because Dr. Rowley and this government has done it. But what did Kamala Prasad and Mr. Sunday do while they were in office? Outside of thieving and lying to the people. We have to be guarded against this woman and these people, because up to now, as you rightly said, patriotic front ahead of her as far as people are concerned. And yet you name, well, I have never heard of them, some of them before. But I hear Dr. this and Dr. that. Who is Kamala Prasad putting up for elections? Who is going for St. Augustine? If Khadija Amin, the representative for St. Augustine, she's not telling us. I haven't heard a word from Khadija Amin for months. Has she been told that she will not be the representative? You understand? But all of a sudden, they're the best thing to put them back. Put who back? We don't even know who to put back. Put who back? But we know the PNM has 41 candidates. So we understand and we know exactly who we want to go back. But up to now, UNC, Kamala Prasad is holding those names close to her chest. And Philip Edward Alexander, when he studied what he could do when he gets in office. All of a sudden now, he's concerned about office. And Dominic, I did not even know, the thing you said it this morning, I was not aware that one of the persons for opening a bank account for a political party that you must have, what is that?
Constitution and bylaws.
Constitution and bylaws. Because they said they want to know who names will be on the check. I wasn't aware that those were some of the things that they had to have in front in order to open an account. So that is telling me something, Dominic. That is telling me that a lot of these parties have no constitution and no bylaws. They just say the whole elections and that is it. Or some of them don't even hold elections. They just call names of people. And therefore we have to ask ourselves that question. When people want to give these parties money, where is the money going? In whose pocket? In which bank account? These are the questions we have to ask. Because they are coming and telling us that they have a party how many years old, and the cabinet possibly is calling them pop-up parties, but you taking on Philip Edward Alexander, who popping in and popping out of his party when he feel like. What a shame. But we have to be careful, and we have to do what we have to do at the end of the day. Because this woman is a consummated liar. And she is not bringing anything new to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And I think, just like Donald Trump, she is going to be worse this time around. Not better. She's going to be worse. And we have to be mindful of the people that she's carrying on board with her. People I firmly believe will have questions to answer. And we will have to interrogate and ask those questions when that time comes. We're not going to let her get away with it. We'll make the people aware of those persons that whose names she is withholding at this point in time. Dominic, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Probably take a couple more. Apologies to the folks on Facebook. I don't know what happened there, but yeah, it was just giving some problems, but we are back up. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Yeah, good morning to you, sir. How are you doing?
I am good, man.
Viewers of Facts of Storm and things. I want to thank you for the information you gave us today and the gentle reminders. But you know, one of the first things that Marco Rubio did in reference to the Prime Minister's remarks yesterday at the Central Bank opening, one of the first things Marco Rubio did, didn't he go to Venezuela and meet with Maduro to have discussions with them? And those discussions in the repatriation of Venezuelan criminals, and part of that was also energy agreement. Yeah, that was done. So that is all. It all ties into what the Prime Minister said about sovereignty and so on. So America is free to apply its sovereignty and its standards when it suits them. But we as a country are not allowed to do that. And what I'm saying is, when you talk about revoking people's status and so on, where is Maduro, not Maduro, where is Juan Guaido, who the UNC supports and recognized as the president of Venezuela in the elections prior, when he was the president of the assembly? Where is he now? Wasn't he on the run and so on because of fraud and with the other election, the other opposition parties in Venezuela and so on? It isn't the coalition that he was attempting to forge. Didn't that collapse, and we saw the rise of the lady who was banned and wasn't able to contest the election? Then her proxy, who went up as a candidate, is the man who they now recognize as the rightful president of Venezuela.
Correct.
Juan Guaido has gone off into the sunset, right? And you know, people have to be aware of these kind of things. If we ask them for fairness in international and diplomacy, and this is what we will bring to the table. And so the facts here highlighted our actions under the OFPAC, right, under the State Department was carefully overseen by the former Secretary of State, Mr. Blinken, the Undersecretary with responsibility for the Caribbean and Latin America. And also, we had great assistance from the resident ambassador here, Ms. Bond, in addition to the members of the Congressional Black Caucus that you identified. People like Congresswoman Waters, Congressman Meeks, and so on, Leader Jeffries. These are the people who actively engage and saying, hey, listen, you know we are against the Maduro regime. What the government of Trinidad and Tobago is attempting to do is attempting to wean the region off of the agreement they have, the Petro-Caribbean agreement with Venezuela. And if they require our assistance in the U.S. to do that, then it would make good sense diplomatically and politically, regardless of which administration is in office, to do that. And that is why the Prime Minister was able to say they would have met with bipartisan delegations, which consisted of Republicans and Democrats. Mr. Young was able to also say that too. And among to that critical role is the now director of the SSA when he was the ambassador plenipotentiary in Washington. Mr. Anthony Phillips played a critical role as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And these things that you have to understand, right? International diplomacy doesn't mean that you roll over. We saw how a leader stands up for his principles 2 weeks ago in the White House debacle between President Zelensky and Trump. And this is all that the Prime Minister has said and what he has said yesterday. You know? People talk about investment, but didn't under the UNC, wasn't there supposed to be a development on the North Coast, hotel and resort and so on, and cable cars with a QVT and Saudi Arabian consortium? Do you recall that, Dominic?
Yep.
They thought and how revolutionary it would be for the area and so on. What came of that? And didn't the Prime Minister go to Saudi Arabia to meet with people from around the area to give them what is our position with respect to energy, sovereignty, and gas deals and so on? All that was done. Then the Prime Minister and Stuart Young went to London, then to Germany. They ended up in the Emirates. So listen, we are not just about exploring north-south, but we are also looking at south-south opportunities. And once we do not agree the overall position of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and other people with respect to their human rights, we have business opportunities. It is not our place to meddle into the internal affairs of countries. That is our position. We have a non-aligned position since the days of Dr. Eric Williams. And it has continued across administrations. PLM administrations, that is. Right? Because when we have these fools from the other side who had 11 years that things become muddled and complicated. Is that what we want to go back to? Dominic, I would just say, my brother, in closing, people have to pay attention to how the world works. Mm-hmm. Diplomacy is about negotiation, long and hard, sometimes at backroom. Posturing doesn't always do it. But as a leader, you have a right to assert what is your country's position with respect to sovereignty and how and who they will transact business with. Because it's the same platform that Mr. Trump and Rubio are touting right now. And the respect of one's sovereignty is not a one-way street. It goes 2 ways. And we have the right, whether it's a micro-state or whatever, to come out and state what is our position. That is our right. As we have opportunity, sir, and enjoy the best of it. I'm sorry that the PSA elections went the way they did, but as Mr. Manu would have told us eons ago, but only Fox Day.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. Just here. One second, caller. Let me just one sec. All right. Hello. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Vanessa Scott here.
Hi.
Again, I love the fact that the last caller brought up a very, very serious and pertinent point that I don't think that a lot of people taken in consideration. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Trump saying certain things, he put out certain things, but if it is that we look at the countries that he would have targeted initially, and he would have said big, bold, brash things, and then he had to pretend these things, because at the end of the day, a leader could speak, and we know political leaders could talk, and we have one on the other side that gives a mouth blessing. But when you break down everything to brass tacks and to try to work it and make it make sense, when these negotiators have to come to the table, just as the foreign ministers came to the table with the U.S. representatives, when it actually comes down to it and they understand what are the intricacies, certain things have to be rolled back. So this initial panic that the UNC seems to be wanting to put out there, I want to inform the people, don't be stupid, don't study these dirty people. When it is, leaders can say what they want to say on platforms. That is what they do to get in particular, in a particular standing with the supporters. They say certain things. But however, when it comes to the drawing board, the negotiating table, and they realize these things are not feasible, then that's where you have these negotiators, these professional negotiators who come together and speak, and then they realize, okay, this workable, this not workable, etc. So I want the country to not go into a panic mode. Yes, wait and see what happens. Allow our negotiators, and I think I have enough confidence in these persons who would be diplomats, negotiators for much years, that they know they have the relationship. Let them go out there, discuss, and present our issues to the US and whoever else is at the table. And then, after all of that is done, and when finally decision is made, then we can speak and say, well, no, we are doing this or yes, we're doing this. But initially, right now, and again, it's because of the election, the UNC is using this as a kind of panic button, just to rile up the citizens and make them afraid. But know that is not how the world works. And at the end of the day, just look at the examples of Canada and the different tariffs that they said they would have put on them, and then they reduced it. And, because again, these negotiators went on the table and they had discussions and understand that, what initially was said cannot be upheld. You understand? So that is what happened. Not just you could take what Trump said. Trump could say what we want. This is his last term, so he wants to be majestic. Let him say what he has to say, but leave it to our professional negotiators to go and advocate first. So that is my contribution this morning.
Thank you. Negotiation, not capitulation. And that's the fundamental difference between Keith Rowley and Kamala Prasad-Bissessar. He negotiates, she capitulates, right? She stands among those when Trump says jump. She says, how high, sir? Bearing in mind that I'm 73 years old and you're okay about that? That's all right. Well, I'll try. Right? Just remember, she does things because she thinks it's politically expedient. When they declared their support for Guaido, and how did that turn out? Where is Mr. Guaido today? Based on reports, we see that he and others are facing investigation with respect to possible fraud as it pertains to monies that would have been provided by US aid. Right? So, yeah. But, and with respect to this nonsense she spoke about last night about the upgrade of the travel advisory with respect to U.S. citizens coming to Trinidad and Tobago, and that is as a result of what Dr. Rowley said with respect to gunmen being labeled or considered to be terrorists. Again, and I made the point before, in the United States, when these things happen, when you have mass shootings, these persons are declared as being domestic terrorists. If a man puts a gun in a duffel bag, or he puts a gun in a back, not a gun, sorry, a bomb in a backpack, and he goes and puts it in a public place and it detonates and persons are injured or die, that person is considered to be a terrorist. But the fact of the matter is, so she said, everybody saw this coming except Rowley and his government and these idiots in government and so on. Because when it is you declare and you tell the world that you have terrorists operating in Trinidad, the Prime Minister never said that. What the Prime Minister did was to articulate a position that was taken by CARICOM. All the CARICOM leaders sat down in a meeting, and Prasad Bisasa understands how these things work, because she was once the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. She was once the chairman of CARICOM, which is a 6-month rotation. So she would have served in that position. She understands how CARICOM works and how these decisions are taken. So that when Dr. Rowley spoke on that issue, it wasn't about a decision for Trinidad and Tobago alone. As it was his final heads of government meeting, he was given the opportunity to speak and to articulate on behalf of CARICOM. So if she is saying that the United States upgraded their travel advisory to their citizens coming to this country because of those statements made by Dr. Rowley, then we should expect similar travel advisories for all CARICOM countries, because this was a position that CARICOM took. All the leaders sat down and they discussed and they said, this is the way we're going. And we need to do a little more research. They appointed the former AG or somebody of Ghana or something, so to do a little bit more research and then come back to them with the research information, and they will discuss it further. But this is where they are going in an attempt to treat with the increase in gun crimes throughout CARICOM. Every single CARICOM nation is facing an increase in gun crimes. It's facing an increase in their murder rate because of gun-related crimes and murders. But she's talking about Trinidad and travel advisory. And while she continues to talk this nonsense about travel advisory and their advice, you have US citizens who came here for Carnival and who were warned before, not by any travel advisory, but by Trinidad and Tobago citizens who were telling them, don't come here, because the crime's so high and they're going to get killed and all of that, and make sure you work with security and you put on your, all of that. And these people took it upon themselves when they came here to do videos, which they are now posting on their various social media platforms, talking about before they came to Trinidad, they were warned and they were told Trinidad is unsafe and all of that. And they said they came here and they felt perfectly safe. They went out. Some of them were here for a week, 2 weeks. And all the places that they went, they're showing here where they did their videography and so on. And they are marketing Trinidad and Tobago and telling people outside, don't be afraid. People will tell you this, that about Trinidad. But come, I went, I experienced it. I was safe. I had no issues. In some cases, I went out by myself. And yeah, and I'm good. But meanwhile, the person who wants to be the Prime Minister of this country again is doing the exact opposite, right? Doing the exact opposite. You're driving away foreign direct investment that you keep talking about, because when you talk about, oh, Dr. Rowley went and he tell the whole world that we have terrorists operating in Trinidad. But every time you and your minions open your mouth, you're telling foreign direct investors, persons who might be interested in coming here and investing hundreds of thousands or millions of US dollars, hey, the economy in Trinidad and Tobago is terrible. The economy is on the brink. The economy collapsed. Rowley mash up the economy. So basically what you telling them, don't come to Trinidad and invest. Don't come here because the economy in shambles, the economy in a mess. So if you come here, you're just wasting your money. But we need the foreign direct investment, and they complaining, no forex. But the opportunities for the forex to come, you and the clowns that hoping to come into government, every time you're telling foreign investors, don't come here because the economy in a mess, and Rowley mash up the economy and all of that. So if it is the person who wants to be the next Prime Minister is doing that, what do you think they're going to do? And when you have the Prime Minister and members of the government and Stuart Chung and these persons trying all their best to tell these people, do not listen to these people. Because contrary to what they are saying, the banks are declaring profits to the tune of billions of dollars. You have the Shogunas mayor which is a UNC constituency, telling you about how business is booming in Shogunas and they need to change up the traffic plans because more and more businesses coming. When you drive around the country, you're seeing new businesses being opened. Just yesterday, I was driving through Maraval and I saw the opening yet another branch of Wendy's on Saddle Road in Maraval. They're building one, not renting, in that big open space just after you pass Royal Palm Plaza there. On the left-hand side, you will see all over the country, these things are happening. New businesses, new malls opening up. Eastgate is almost fully tenanted. You have a new mall opening in Arima behind RBC. You have the new strip mall that is opening behind Extra Foods in Aranguez there. All over the country, you're seeing money. The banks are telling you they're seeing an increase in business loans. Businesses borrowing money to start new businesses, to expand their businesses. But you telling the world, don't come here because the economy bad. But she wants to be the prime minister. And they fully done supporting that. Well, there's something had to be wrong with Tolia. Could never get my vote. But they're patriots and they so love Trinidad and Tobago. Miss me with that bullspit. Let me just take this last call here and then we're done for the day. Let me just change this here, Jenny. So, where is it? Jenny. Hello?
Dominic?
Yeah, Jen.
This situation with what the, I don't know if they call him a foreign affairs person in America, that spoke about the countries in the Caribbean that are doing business or
Secretary of State.
Right, with Cuba, that they will be revoking visas. I heard on a blog yesterday that the guy had I think it's the Foreign Affairs Secretary or Minister or something, so of Barbados speaking. And they were written to. She was reading out the letter. So it's not a Trinidad thing and Dr. Rowley thing. So when Dr. Rowley made the comment that he's been to California and he don't have to go back and run his life, I'm sure it may have been based on that because Caribbean leaders will talk with each other.
Right.
So they have already started writing to Caribbean leaders. So, in my opinion, heavy hand over them to tell them if they're dealing with Cuba, that they will take away their visas. So it has started, and that's why, again, I reiterated, the Caribbean have to stick together. We have to put the elbows up just like the other countries in the world.
Yeah.
And stand as a united force, because in the event of anything, we are small, and if we separated, it's easy to just pick off people or countries. As a matter of fact, so we need to stay focused and we need to sit together. And lastly, with regards to Dr. Rowley and not using the medical services here, why would he? The last time he did that, one of the workers of the facility, health facility, had all his medical business all over the place. And everybody was talking, and I think that person was subsequently fired. And if you go into an institution in this country, and it is so easy for somebody to take all your information and medical data and all that and have it all over, would you have confidence, especially like a prime minister or even a minister, to go and use the facility? So I have no problem with Dr. Rowley going out to America to treat with whatever issues he has, and also going to Cuba. We don't usually go from here to Cuba for medical care. What usually happens to Cuban doctors and nurses and that come here, and they would implement their training across here and that kind of thing. But there's no history of Trinidadians going to seek medical attention in Cuba. So that conversation with Ms. Kamala Prasad-Bisesla talking about Dr. Rowley speaking about how good the Cuban doctors and nurses are, but he ain't going Cuba. That is a foolish conversation, because this link with Cuba has been happening since in the days of Dr. Eric Williams. They have always sent their medical professionals here, because I think one of the things would have happened when Fidel Castro would have internalized and made everything that relied on itself based on whatever sanction and all that. The doctors, medical professionals, all that would have had to use the local stuff there, and they would have perfected that. Even with education, everybody in Cuba is literate. because all the teachers had to go to the rural areas and all that and make sure that Cubans are literate. So they were able to internalize and use what they had and perfect it. So that's why they're so good in medicine and those kind of things, because they have been able to use what they have and not have to depend on outside because of the sanction and all that. So that's why they're so well sorted all over the world and in the Caribbean especially. And as a part, they are part of us. Why would we not reach out to help if we can help? Again, as I'm saying at the end, all of us have to band together. This is no longer the time 1 from 10 is 0 and all that. Time has changed. 1 from 10 just means 9. It's a minus 0. And we're going full speed ahead, 100%. All of us as one at the end of the day. Because we have everything to lose and everything to gain based on how we operate in the Caribbean. So thank you again, Dominic.
Thank you, Jen. Right. Caribbean soul. All right. Why CARICOM call Rowley Stoneface? That's the only thing you heard, right? You only heard that part, but you didn't hear what they said after that. Right? But they were stating that when you at first you get the impression from Dr. Rowley, stone-faced, meaning that he's very matter-of-factly, he's very stern, but under that there's a different demeanor. You didn't hear when the Guyanese president who made that comment. I think it was the Guyanese president, and then he went on to speak in glowing terms of Dr. Rowley, Caribbean soul. But you see, I do expect differently from you. You know why? Because you're just as dishonest as your lying leader. And the unfortunate thing is that people like you all could vote. You're like dishonest to the hilt, dishonest, upholders of wrongdoing, right? And you are prepared. You are among those who are prepared to vote for a party that would offer you a man who is on $1 million bail for fraud. But you will never come here and speak about that. You will never condemn that. You are prepared to vote for a man who's under police investigation for prostitution and human trafficking. But they want to criticize Cho-Chung the other day when he talked about that, he intends to bring legislation to protect women and so on. Right? You have no problem voting for a man who stands accused and who's under police investigation for taking public monies and putting it in his mother's bank account and trying to hide it in her insurance policies. You have no problem voting for people like that. You have no problem voting for a man who was fired from 2 public utilities companies for gross misconduct, for misuse of public funds, for trying to engage in bid rigging and so on, and to give contracts to people who couldn't do the job, probably for kickbacks. You have no problem voting for people like that and accepting that low quality, low grade type of person being offered to you. That is what your party can offer you. You have no problem but want to come here and talk a pack and nonsense about Dr. Rowley. Well, Rowley is going, right? In a few days' time, he will be gone as Prime Minister. Then who you are going to beat up on? And that's the problem you all have. But your pathetic loser of a political leader is still there, yapping her mouth and talking a pack of nonsense, providing you all the propaganda to come here and spew. Shameless. You all can't come with no facts. And I keep asking you, challenge the things that I say. And you know why you can't? Because facts are stubborn things. And you all cannot challenge it. So you come in here with all kind of that dotishness and stupid talk. But we're not surprised. Not surprised at all. Your party has no solutions to any of the challenges the country faces. Could criticize Dr. Rowley and Stuart Chung. I know they negotiate with Maduro. What is her alternative? Where are we going to get gas? Dr. Rowley explained the situation. So where's she going to get the gas from? She have it in her backyard, and yeah, she's gonna drop 2 rigs in her backyard in the Pink Palace in Philippines, and we're gonna get oil and gas. Clubs. Shameless, yes? No solutions to anything in this country. Waste that time. All they want to do is come back and thief. No solutions. Stand your ground. Let us create 4 ministries to deal with national security instead of the one that we have. No other government in this country within recent time has seen the need to have 4 ministries. She wants to have Ministry of National Security, Ministry of Justice, Ministry of Defense, and Ministry of Home Affairs. 4 ministers to deal with national security issues, right? So you have one ministry right now, 1 building, but you have to find 3 additional buildings to house those new 3 ministries. And who's she going and rent it from? The same 1% that's all you're criticizing. The same 1% buildings that have been empty for the last how many years is the same buildings that she's going to come back if you will put her back there to rent. and put money into the same 1% pocket. So should that happen, when you clowns and hypocrites want to come and talk nonsense, let us hear you defend that. Let us hear you defend that. But all I will come and say, yeah, well, and Rowley was rented from Paris and all of that nonsense. If it's wrong, it's wrong. But we will remind you all, but God forbid you should ever have the opportunity or the chance to do that. Bunch of shameless cowards. Was that you get a pink palace when you win Dabadi and the corruption starts kicking into full your pocket? Where do you idiot? You see, you know why you could say that, Caribbean Soul? It shows what's in your mind, that you all figure politics is all about making money. I have made the point on numerous occasions. I earn a very good living right now, right? Very, very good living in my current profession. So politics to me is that I don't need to go into politics to make money. I'm pretty sure I make a heck of a lot more money than you do. And I'm pretty sure I'm living better than you do, right? So that's all you all think. And everybody who in politics about money and kickback. I am not interested in these things, sir. Not interested in the least. Because that's why I can hop on a plane whenever it is that I want to and travel. I travel many times a year whenever I feel like it. Me going into politics actually clips my wings and puts restrictions on me. Because if I feel to jump on a plane tomorrow, I could do it. And I don't have to depend on any kickback or anything, any money from the government. Right? I can do what I want when I want. All right? Unlike you, who can't do that. That's why I'm pretty sure my passport has plenty more stamps in it than yours does. And I don't have no government job. Okay? I worked in the private sector all my life and I do very well. Very well. So all this stupid talk about me getting a pink palace, I live in a very nice home. A very nice home, right? Which I inherited from my parents because they were about, and my mother in particular, about building generational wealth, right? Putting things in place. Unfortunately, she died early, but at least she made sure that she had things in place for her children, okay? So I don't need politics to live in no pink palace. I don't want no pink palace. That doesn't interest me, right? If that's what you think and you want to get into politics for that, then you go right ahead. But that is not my motive. My motive is to help people. And even before election, I have already started helping people. In some cases, out of my own pocket. I don't have to call names and all of that. Right? So check all yourself. Folks, we will chat again on Thursday morning. So thanks to the demise of Julian. Chris, you are so pathetic. You're so pathetic. What an idiot you are. Something wrong with Elias coming here to call up police and name in your mouth. You ain't shame. Study the fact that yesterday the Central Block they had the commissioning of Central Block and the fact that only one member of the UNC showed up. But you all call yourselves patriots. Only Rai Ragbir showed up. Everybody else would have gotten invitations. You wanted to call Lisa name in your mouth. How many of them went to Lisa's funeral? That was their parliamentary colleague. And who showed up? Two. Rai Ragbir and Rushton Parry. The rest of them didn't consider her enough to at least come to her funeral for even an hour and show your face at least and then leave. Couldn't do that. But don't worry, W Mara waiting for whoever all they send, and they will remember these things. And I will make sure they remember that you all are a heartless bunch of lowlifes. Right? Pretenders. Pretenders. Couldn't come to the woman's funeral, but you want to be calling up her name? Well, all right. W Mara waiting. No, sorry. Malabar Mausika waiting for you. Come, they're waiting. Come with all your nonsense. If you feel you ever get a repeat of Anil Roberts, they remember the last time they made the mistake to put this constituency in the hands of a UNC, what the outcome was. So they're waiting. Folks, see, Wayne Gibson says, yeah, Dr. Ragbir was at the Central Block, the only member of the UNC to show up. They got an invitation, regardless of politics. This is a public building that they are hoping to be in charge of in a few months and couldn't even go to that. Shameless. Stupid. Vanessa says, thank you, Mr. Romain, for your continued integrity. Let them know we don't need political kickbacks for wealth. We work hard. Exactly. I work very hard for my money. I want a certain lifestyle, and I have been working hard towards that. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure what I say for the month, Chris and Caribbean Soul is plenty more than you all have in your bank account. But anyway, we wouldn't go down that road. Boy. Yeah, that's why you want cameras come back in so like a thief. Yeah, who knows whatever they pay, let to come and do this nonsense. They're probably hoping for contract and stuff. And yeah, bunch of thieves. But just remember, the upholders worse than the thieves. Folks, we will chat again on Thursday. Yeah, I was supposed to have a central bank meeting, but I just got a notice that it was postponed. So yeah, so we will chat on Thursday. So take care, enjoy the rest of your day. As I always say, make it a productive one. Keep safe on the black carpet. We want you all back here. We need every one of your votes for the election, including that of the trolls who come here every morning because truth is addictive. I'm sure there are other places they could have been, but they can't help themselves and come here. And when they can't battle the truth, they come with propaganda and chop it talk to change the topic. Have a great day, folks.